Chapter 25-21. Even with Su Yu's temperament, he could not help but be furious. However, he still put down his palm. It was not because he had calmed down. It was because he could not beat the baby at all. Su Yu wiped his face in pain. Even if he was raising his own son, it would not be so hard. Why was this son he had picked up so hard? Don't cry. I've tried my best. Su Yu comforted him helplessly. The baby cried even harder. Then, probably tired of crying, he pouted and looked at Su Yu with his big, watery eyes. He then turned his head and ran to the end of the mine. The end still needed to be excavated. Su Yu followed, not understanding what the baby was going to do. Then, a scene that left Su Yu dumbfounded appeared. The baby's pink little fist punched out, and the whole underground mine shook. The mine in front of him cracked, and a crack the size of a baby appeared. The baby dove in, and when he could no longer move forward, he broke it open with brute force. He repeated this dozens of times before stopping. Su Yu used the space domain and turned into a speck of dust, drifting over. He found the baby in the deepest part of the mine, sitting on the ground, happily chewing on 100 kilograms 6th grade 9 Serenities crystal. 6th grade 9 Serenities crystal? Su Yu clicked his tongue. In the entire history of the Greater One sect, only a few 6th grade 9 Serenities crystals had appeared. It was not easy to find one, but it was eaten by the baby as dinner. He ate the 6th grade 9 Serenities crystal quickly and continued to dig deeper into the mine with his monstrous strength. He seemed to have an innate instinct for high-level 9 Serenities crystals. Wherever he went, there would be 6th grade 9 Serenities crystals. In the end, he even found 1,000 kilogram 6th grade 9 Serenities crystal. According to the market price, this 6th grade 9 Serenities crystal was worth at least 160,000 time crystals. In the end, the baby ate it from head to toe. When there were only about 30 kilograms of leftover material left, he threw it away in disgust. Swoosh! As soon as he threw it away, the little Kylan scurried out, like a pitiful dog holding a bone from its owner. It took the leftover 9 Serenities crystal to a corner and started munching on it. Looking at the miserable state of the little Kylan, Su Yu's heart ached. It was too miserable. Only then was the baby full. He furrowed his brows at Su Yu and mumbled to himself. It seemed like he was blaming Su Yu for being a useless father. He had to rely on himself to find a meal. Su Yu clenched his fists and quickly put them down. He told himself in his heart, bear with it. He is still a child. Moreover, you cannot defeat him. After the baby was full, he continued to dig for a while. Not long after, he carried out a 50 kilogram 6th grade netherworld crystal and carried it on his shoulder. This meant that it was to be used as a reserve of dry rations in case of emergencies. Su Yu's eyes lit up. Let me hold it for you. It's such a big thing, and it could easily be snatched away by the bad guys. The baby tilted his head and thought for a moment. As if he really understood Su Yu's words, he handed the 9 nether crystal to him. Just as it was about to leave, Su Yu chuckled and said, I think you can take this opportunity to get more food. If you leave this place in the future, where will you find food? The baby tilted its mouth and thought about it. It felt that it made sense, so it nodded and ran back to continue bombarding the mine with its monstrous strength. In a short while, he returned with a pile of 6th grade 9 nether crystals. In this way, after a whole night, Su Yu had harvested a full 2,000 kilograms of 6th grade 9 nether crystals. If converted into time crystals, it would be 320,000 time crystals. This son of mine was not picked up for nothing, Su Yu said happily as he counted the 6th grade 9 nether crystals. He had worked so hard and risked his life to get 200,000 time crystals from the heavenly awakening grand meat. This son he had picked up had gotten so many in one night. Seeing that it was almost dawn, Su Yu stroked his head. Good son, you did a good job today. Having been praised, the baby laughed and hugged his thigh intimately. After coaxing him for a while, Suyu threw him back into the storage space and let him play by himself. I say, master, doesn't your conscience hurt? As a father, you tricked your son into becoming a miner and digging for ores for you? You should really be struck by lightning. The little Kylan rolled its eyes with a look of disdain. Suyu glared at it. The little Kylan immediately turned into a shameless, weird smile. But I like it. When I dig up enough 9 nether crystals, I'll kick him away, ha ha ha. Shameless. Suyu rolled his eyes. How can there be such a shameless person like you in this world? The little Kylan spat. Who do you think I grew up with? As the saying goes, one is marked by the company one keeps. The pet takes after the owner. Suyu was annoyed and sent it flying with a kick. In the following days, Suyu supervised the slaves during the day and his son at night. Half a year had passed, and the 6th grade 9 nether crystals in his storage space had piled up into a mountain. They weighed at least 100,000 caddies. If converted into time crystals, it would be 16 million. All the 6th grade 9 nether crystals in the entire underground mine had been dug out by the baby, and not a single one was left for the Greater One faction. Not only that, because the baby had broken the mine, the slaves had an abnormally easy time digging, and they were digging at a speed of 100 miles a day. The 7th grade, 8th grade, and 9th grade 9 nether crystals produced were more than the sum of the other 9 mines. Such unprecedented mining efficiency had alarmed the higher-ups of the faction. After discussion, they gave Suyu an additional reward of upgrading the rank of a disciple. At this point, Suyu had become a 9-star disciple. He was just one step away from becoming a deputy hall master. The half a year's time agreed upon with Chongyang had finally arrived. He left the underground mine and came to the Tianyuan pavilion. Chongyang, Yu Xiangwan, and Hong Mo had already met up. Seeing that Suyu had arrived, Chongyang immediately announced the departure. There are already 3 senior martial brothers there, Chongyang said. All we need to do is go and meet up with them. Apart from the few disciples, there were also a few hall masters of the faction who were known for their abilities. Among them was the Golden Armor Hall Master of the military division. He had been assigned to escort the group of disciples there. The Golden Armor Hall Master observed the group of disciples, his gaze lingering only briefly on Suyu. In his eyes, a trace of resentment flashed faintly. He had asked around, and the divine herb had really been given to the Miaoying Hall Master. As someone from the military division, Suyu would rather give it to an outsider than to his superior? This made the Golden Armor Hall Master feel embarrassed. This trip was fraught with danger. If there was a chance, he would definitely teach Suyu a lesson. The group advanced according to the map, passing through dozens of factions of different sizes. After a year of traveling, they finally arrived at their destination. The southern center of the dream-broken realm, Nanming City. This place was far more prosperous than any other area in the south. Even if it was Heaven and Lightning Palace, it couldn't be compared to a city like South Bright City. Because the master of Nanming City was the descendant of a time master. She was known as the Star Rain Empress. She was the 7th successor to the Time Master. The one who controlled the evil spring was the Star Rain Empress. Nanming City was extremely large, even larger than the entire territory of the Greater One sect. Middle Nirvana Tao Masters could be seen everywhere in the city. Nirvana Realm and Void Nirvana Realm were not rare. Along the way, they had even discovered a few Nirvana Void Realm experts. The people of the Greater One sect entered Nanming City, feeling uneasy like a country bumpkin entering a city. Chongyang's arrogance was gone, replaced by caution. He said in a low voice, "Nanming City is full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Remember not to cause trouble. Keep a low profile." The group nodded. With their cultivation, it was really not enough in the South Bright City. After a few attempts, they finally contacted the 3 seniors who were waiting in Nanming City. They were the top 3 in the Greater One sect. In an inn that was not luxurious, the group finally gathered. "Did you bring the people and the 9 serenities crystals?" In a secret room, the 3 inner sanctum disciples were discussing secretly. The one who spoke was a yellow-haired youth. His body was transparent, and his organs, veins, and other parts of his body could be seen. The aura he emitted was abnormally powerful, reaching the nirvana realm. His martial techniques were weaker than the demonic ape puppet. Su Yu shivered slightly. Among the people present, the only one who could pose a threat to him was this nirvana realm senior of the Greater One sect, Jiang Xuanzhong. "I brought them." Chongyang's attitude toward Jiang Xuanzhong was very respectful. "How many 9 serenities crystals?" Chongyang looked at Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan, not hiding anything. "I only brought about 8 million time crystals worth of 9 serenities crystals." Hearing this, Jiang Xuanzhong was silent. "Senior, is it a little too little?" Sai, beside Jiang Xuanzhong, a beautiful woman sighed. "It's not a little, it's a lot." Although the beautiful woman's cultivation level was only at the later stage of middle nirvana, her intuition told her that she was much stronger than Chongyang. She was Ji Xianling, who was ranked 2nd. Based on the information we have, many factions have brought more than 10 million 9 serenities crystals. It is said that the demon faction has prepared 20 million 9 serenities crystals. 8 million 9 serenities crystals is almost impossible to buy the evil spring. Chongyang's face turned pale. But this is the limit of what the faction can offer. The rest will have to be handed over to the Holy Land. We can only think of a way ourselves. The last to speak was a young man whose body was covered in flames. He was Huali, who was ranked 3rd. His abilities were above Chongyang's. Hearing this, Chongyang asked in surprise, "Could it be that the 3 of you have already thought of a way to gather the money?" Since they said this, they must have a plan. Jiang Xuanzhong nodded slowly. "Yes, we heard that the Imperial Guards of Nanming City have recently been hunting for the little demon master of the demon faction. The reward is 10 million time crystals. If we can catch him and receive the reward, we will have a high chance of getting a portion of the evil spring." "Little demon master?" Everyone's expressions changed. Chongyang was shocked. "Is this true?" "That little demon master is the descendant of the demon faction's faction master. Ever since he was born, he has been protected by the demon faction's elders. Why would he come to Nanming City so openly?" The demon faction was the common enemy of the Dream Division realm. This time, when the demon faction wanted to buy the evil spring, they did not dare to show themselves in public. They could only use the faction that they controlled in secret to snatch it. However, that little demon master had suddenly appeared. It was really unbelievable. Su Yu's eyes flickered. Little demon master? There was such a person in the demon faction? Su Yu wondered whether he was strong or not, and whether he would be difficult to deal with. Chapter 25-22. Jiang Xuanzhong took out a bounty list with a detailed description. Chongyang frowned. "Why isn't there a detailed description of the little devil master? How are we supposed to catch him?" There was only one sentence about the little devil master. "He is good at disguising himself, and it is very difficult to distinguish him from a demon." Su Yu looked at it and felt that he and Yu Xiangwan might be suitable target. This was because both of them had godly eyes that were different from ordinary people. Especially Yu Xiangwan, her ability to see through things might even be better than his. His transparent eyes were just an accessory of the soul realm. Yu Xiangwan, on the other hand, specialized in this field. If it was easy to catch, the Imperial Guards of Nanming City would have caught him by themselves. Why would they need to put up a bounty? Ji Xuanling's eyes shone. Now the whole city is full of people trying to catch the little devil master. It all depends on who is lucky enough to find him. Chongyang nodded. That was true. Are we the only ones here? Chong Yang pointed at the people around him. Jiang Xuanzhong's gaze swept across, pausing only on Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan. Who are they? He asked. Eldest senior brother, they are two capable people I picked from the outside sanctum. Their abilities have been tested, and they are very good, Chong Yang recommended. Jiang Xuanzhong glanced at them and said, This operation is more important. It is better not to use people we don't know about. The 10 great inner sanctum disciples often met and trusted each other. Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan were not. But their abilities are really good. This is someone who defeated Jin Feijian, and this one can stop me. Chong Yang said regretfully. He had brought the two of them here to be useful. That's not a big deal. They are dispensable. Jiang Xuanzhong interrupted him. Let them stay at the inn and do odd jobs. He insisted, and Chong Yang could do nothing about it. Yu Xiangwan's eyes were filled with disappointment. She had thought she could make a name for herself, but she was still limited by her status. The local geniuses of the 8-star civilizations must have looked down on them from the outside world. In the end, except for Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan, everyone else went out to look for the little devil master. Even the golden-armored hall master was controlled by them. Brother Su, are you willing? Yu Xiangwan asked desolately. Su Yu's expression was indifferent. Willing? Like a fool, searching for a needle in a haystack in a sea of people? He didn't even know the little devil lord's appearance and characteristics, and he still wanted to find him? Even if the little devil lord stood in front of them, they might not be able to recognize him, right? Those inner sect disciples were really poor to the point of insanity. How could he be willing to do such a stupid thing? Brother Su, there seems to be a hidden meaning in your words. Yu Xiangwan had been in contact with Su Yu for several years, so she had a rough understanding of his character. Upon hearing these words, Zhang Xian knew that there was a hidden meaning behind it. Su Yu looked at Yu Xiangwan and chuckled. I never expected to get a share of the evil spring from the inner sanctum disciples. Yu Xiangwan's eyes were sparkling as she sat beside Su Yu with a smile. What schemes do you have up your sleeve this time? Su Yu took out the space storage artifact that contained the 6th grade 9 nether crystal. Won't you know what kind of trick it is if you take a look? It was hard to say for others, but Yu Xiangwan was trustworthy. He needed Xiangwan's help to purchase the evil spring as well. That was why he told her about his trump card in advance. Yu Xiangwan was puzzled. She took a glance inside and immediately got up in shock. Where did you get so many 6th grade 9 nether crystals? Oh my god! That amount was even more than the value of all the 9 nether crystals at the Heavenly Awakening Feast combined. Of course it was dug out by my good son. Su Yu smiled. When he had given his son to Yu Xiangwan, she had rejected him. But now, Yu Xiangwan stood rooted to the ground. She did not have the slightest bit of doubt. That baby was indeed too strange. She did not find it strange that he could dig out the 9 nether crystals. It's good to have a free son. Yu Xiangwan sighed, regretting that she did not accept him back then. He could only helplessly look at Su Yu, who had turned from a person who was in dire straits like him into a wealthy tycoon. After letting out a bitter laugh, Yu Xiangwan burst out laughing. In that case, those inner disciples are fools. Not only did they not fawn over you, but they also went to look for the little devil master? Especially that Jiang Xuanzhong, who looked down on him and Su Yu. But in the end, the support they received from the faction was not even half of what Su Yu had. How ironic. Isn't that right? Su Yu leaned against the wall leisurely. The inner sanctum disciples worked hard to earn money, while the 2 outer sanctum disciples waited comfortably for the evil spring to start buying. Wait, you said this is your son's rations? What will he eat after spending it? Yu Xiangwan asked. Su Yu laughed bitterly. So, I have to go out and look for a reliable mine and let my son dig some rations. Yu Xiangwan pondered. Then you'd better be careful. This is Nanming City, right under the nose of the Star Rain Empress. The local 9 nether crystal mine should belong to the Star Rain Empress. You have to be mentally prepared to dig for her mine. I know. Suyu nodded. After saying this, he went out to the outskirts of Nanming City. Under Nanming City, there was the best 9 nether crystal mine in the whole south. Back then, the Star Rain Empress had found that there were many 9 nether crystals here. Standing outside the city, as far as the eye could see, it was densely packed with interconnected mines. And it was the same as the Greater One faction. Every night, the 9 nether evil wind would blow in the mine, and it was quite violent. Path masters below the Middle Nirvana realm did not dare to linger here. Suyu hid until late at night. When the cold wind came from the mine, he showed himself and jumped into one of the larger mines. The scale of the mine was extremely large, more than 10 times larger than the Greater One faction's mine. After hundreds of millions of years of mining, different tunnels had been dug out in the mine, each of which was extremely deep. Good son, come out and work. Suyu let the baby out. The baby was shouting in confusion, but he seemed to have sensed something. Suddenly, he became spirited and screamed in surprise as he looked at the tunnel in front of him. Then, with a flash, he flew into a tunnel. Before long, Suyu heard the rumbling sound of the mine cracking. He rushed over to take a look and saw that the baby had dug out a giant 6th grade 9 nether crystal that weighed 1,000 pounds. However, he hesitated and did not eat it. After thinking for a while, he threw it away and continued to move forward. Suyu was surprised. He did not eat the 6th grade 9 nether crystal? Did he find something better? Picking up the 6th grade 9 nether crystal that he had thrown away, Suyu followed to see what was going on. Along the way, the baby found many 6th grade 9 nether crystals, but he gave up on all of them. In the end, he did not even bother to dig for them. All of them benefited Suyu. In just 4 hours, he had dug out 2,000 pounds of 6th grade 9 nether crystals. This is indeed the center of the South. The output of the 9 nether crystals in the mine is several times that of the Greater One faction. At that moment, the baby suddenly screamed in surprise. Suyu walked over to take a look and saw a 200-pound dark purple 9 nether crystal embedded in the depths of the mine. Chapter 25-23. Moreover, it was 100 gene. In terms of value alone, it was worth 32,000 time crystals. The baby immediately started munching happily and finished eating in a short while. He licked his lips as if he hadn't had enough, and continued to open a path deeper into the forest. After that, he discovered several pieces of 5th grade netherworld crystals. After eating his fill, his face was full of joy. If you are full, then continue to work and stock up on rations, Suyu said. The baby waved his little fists in protest, as if to say that Suyu was abusing him. Sure, from tomorrow onwards, you can start eating the 6th grade 9 nether crystals, Suyu said indifferently. Anyway, I won't be the one going hungry. Only then did the baby put down his fist in protest. He whimpered and continued to lead the way in dissatisfaction. It wasn't that Suyu really wanted to continue digging for more 9 nether crystals. It was because they could only come to this mine once today. After tonight, the news of the mine being robbed would definitely reach the Star Rain Empress, and she would increase her vigilance. At that time, wouldn't they be walking right into a trap if they came to the mine again? Therefore, he could only secretly dig for today. The two of them continued forward and were busy until dawn. Suyu had harvested 10,000 kilograms of 5th grade 9 nether crystals. The 5th grade 9th hell crystals in this mine had basically all been dug out. As for the 6th grade 9 nether crystals, they dug out no less than 50,000 kilograms. The harvest of one day was more than what the Greater One sect had gained in half a year. Let's go. Looking at the time, the 9th hell evil wind was about to end, and it was time to leave. However, the baby suddenly stared blankly at the stone wall of the mine in front of him. What's wrong? We don't have much time left, so we must leave quickly, Suyu said. The baby pointed at the mountain wall and turned around to tell Suyu something. Only then did Suyu realize that the baby's tears were moist, as if he was about to cry. You recognize something inside, don't you? Suyu was surprised, and he quickly asked. The baby nodded and cast a pleading look at Suyu, asking him to dig a little longer. All right, but it can't exceed the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. 1 incense stick's time was the limit. The baby was overjoyed and immediately led the way. Originally, a single punch from him could easily create a crack as thick as his body in the mine. However, this punch only left a fist-sized crack in the mine. It was obvious that the walls of the mine here were harder. What's going on? Suyu was surprised. Could there really be something extraordinary ahead? The baby persevered. After the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, he finally broke the stone wall. Suyu looked through the crack and almost jumped in fright. On the other side of the fissure, a human face was looking at Suyu. His eyes were wide open, his gaze faint, and his face was filled with anger. When Suyu looked again, he realized that it was a dead man. On the surface of her body, there was an extremely thin layer of purplish-black crystals of the netherworld. 4th grade 9 Serenity's crystal? Suyu was shocked. A 4th grade 9 Serenity's crystal had appeared once in the Heavenly Awakening Grand Assembly, and a female corpse had emerged from it. A similar situation had occurred in front of them. The baby was even more anxious. He rushed forward and took out the grade 4 Abyssal Odd Crystal, then crushed all the Abyssal Odd Crystals outside. Being such a glutton, he didn't even spare a glance at the 4th grade 9 Serenity's crystal. He lay on the corpse that had been dug out and cried loudly. When Suyu looked over, he saw that the corpse with its eyes open was a young woman. Her features were picturesque, and she was extremely beautiful. She was not inferior to the female corpse from the Heaven Awakened banquet. Judging from her expression before she died with everlasting regret. Let's get out of here first, Suyu said. There wasn't much time left. He tried to put the female corpse back into the storage space, but he failed. It was as if there was a mysterious force that was preventing the female corpse from entering the storage space. His eyes narrowed, and he vaguely sensed that it was the power of the great beginning realm. Helpless, he could only pick up the female corpse. When he comforted the baby and let him enter the storage space, the latter held onto the female corpse tightly and refused to leave. Hold on tight then. The Milky Way spread under Suyu's feet, and he galloped at an extremely fast speed through the 9 Serenity's evil wind that was gradually coming to a stop. Time ticked by. By the time he reached the exit of the mine, the 9 Serenity's evil wind had already stopped. He cursed inwardly and was about to rush out of the mine in a flash. But at that moment, 2 figures who had been conversing calmly descended. That thing should be unearthed soon. It will be completed in a few more decades. The Star Rain Empress will be very pleased. Suddenly, a figure brushed past them. The figure on the left was startled, and then pointed a finger across the air. Who dares to enter the mine without permission? At this moment, the slaves who were mining in the mine should not have come out yet. The person who suddenly appeared was most likely an intruder. Suyu hurried forward, but behind him came a domain that made him shudder. Without thinking, Suyu turned his head and shot 8 bolts of purple thunderbolts that were as thick as mountains behind him. Boom! But under that domain, the thunderbolts were like ordinary beams of light, and they were quickly destroyed. The domain bombarded him in an instant. Suyu had no choice but to use the space domain again. But just as he was about to launch it, the aftermath of the domain arrived first, shaking off the female corpse in his hand. He hesitated for a moment. It would be too dangerous to go back to snatch the female corpse. But looking at the crying baby struggling to throw himself at the female corpse, Suyu gritted his teeth, turned around, flew over, and grabbed the female corpse again. Then he immediately used the space domain. Puff! But it was still a step too late, and he was hit by the sweeping space domain. Starting from his back, the terrifying domain smashed him into pieces. His internal organs were instantly turned into a mess. His entire body was completely smashed, and only half of his head was left. Even so, Suyu gritted his teeth and persisted in activating the space domain, successfully escaping. The two figures chased after him out of the mine. Looking around, they could not find Suyu's figure. What was that thing? It did not die? They searched around, but did not find Suyu's corpse. Only now did the person who had spoken reveal his cultivation level. He was in existence at the Nirvana realm. Under normal circumstances, a middle-stage Nirvana realm martial artist would not be able to survive in his hands. The other figure was deep in thought. Brother Yin, did you see the thing he dropped? Did it look like a female corpse? A female corpse? The two of them looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Could it be? The two of them immediately entered the mine and searched the tunnels one by one. Finally, they found that one of the tunnels had been penetrated by someone for thousands of miles. Along the way, all the high-grade 9 Serenities crystals had been dug up. At the end of the fissure, they even found a few fragments of 4th-grade 9 Serenities crystals. Damn it! He stole what the Star Rain Empress wanted. The middle-aged man's expression changed. Quick! Inform the Star Rain Empress. On the other side, at a lake in the suburbs, half of Suyu's head, a female corpse, and a baby tumbled down from the sky. Chapter 25-24. Seeing this, the baby threw himself at Suyu and burst into tears. Suyu looked weak. Enduring the pain, he smiled with difficulty. Don't cry, I got that dead woman back for you. As if he could understand Suyu's words, the baby cried even harder, kissing Suyu's head and crying. Imperceptibly, the relationship between them seemed to have become closer because of Suyu's actions. In the past, although he had always called him father, there was no sense of closeness, and it was a little strange. At this moment, he finally accepted Suyu. At this time, Suyu had recovered half of his body and an arm. He gently touched the tear-stained baby, looked at the dead woman, and sighed. Although I don't know who she is to you, you still have me. As long as I am alive, I will protect you until you grow up. The baby nodded obediently, wiped his tears, and came back to the dead woman's side. His eyes were filled with tears and he whispered, Sister, sister, sister? Suyu's body gradually recovered. He came to the side of the dead woman and pointed his finger between her eyebrows. Bring the dead back to life. A mysterious life field enveloped her body. However, there was no sign of her resurrection. Suyu sighed silently. It didn't work after all. He had already mentally prepared himself that the ancient dead man from the 9 Serenities crystal might not be resurrected. Now it seemed that, she looked at the dead woman and whispered, I will take care of your brother for you. Please rest in peace. A strange scene appeared. The dead woman's eyes were really closed. At the same time, strange words appeared between her eyebrows, cheeks, and neck. Are these the words of the Heavenly Book? Suyu was surprised. He was familiar with the Heavenly Book. How could he not recognize the words on it? However, Suyu couldn't recognize the Heavenly Book character on his glabella even after staring at it for a while. Why are there words of the Heavenly Book on the dead woman's body? Suyu was surprised. Looking at her neck, Suyu said, Miss, I am sorry. He took off all the clothes of the dead woman, revealing her perfect and arousing body. However, Suyu's attention had been attracted by the dense words on her body. Sure enough, not only did words appear on her face, but also on her body. He immediately wrote them down. After recording them down, Suyu found that it seemed to be a spell. Suyu slowly recited the first part of the incantation, which he had no trouble reading. As he muttered to himself, the baby next to him suddenly began to cry. Lowering his head to take a look, Suyu was shocked to discover that the baby had grown a lot taller. She looked like she was less than a year old, but after she finished reading, she looked like she was 2 years old. On his body, the words of the heavenly book that Su Yu had recited appeared. When he looked at the female corpse again, the words of the heavenly book that Su Yu had recited had disappeared. Could it be some kind of legacy? Su Yu was surprised. He had the intention to recite the next incantation, but unfortunately, there were a few words from the heavenly book that were particularly strange, and he had never seen them before. Are there any heavenly book characters in the world that have not been recorded in the wordless heavenly book? Or could it be that Yun Yazi did not pass on all the words of the heavenly book to me? Su Yu pondered. Helpless, he could only give up for now. He glanced at the female corpse. The corpse could not be stored in the storage device. He helped the female corpse put on her clothes again, then put the straw cape on her, and used a strand of soul power to control the female corpse's body. Strangely, it was surprisingly smooth for him to control the female corpse. Generally speaking, it was difficult to control a soul that entered another corpse unless the soul of the corpse owner agreed. Su Yu looked at the female corpse strangely and muttered to himself, "Is this female corpse really dead or faking her death?" He had asked her to close her eyes in peace just now, and she seemed to have heard him. Now it was exceptionally smooth for him to control the body. I wonder what the cultivation of this female corpse is like. Su Yu controlled the body to see if he could release the original cultivation of the body. Under his control, the female corpse raised her snow-white hand and slapped the air in front of her. A scene that made Su Yu's scalp tingle appeared. The surface of the lake in the distance disappeared into thin air. To be precise, everything in the direction of the palm print was evaporated. The Nirvana Void Realm. Su Yu gasped. This was the last realm below the Pathmaster, which could only be achieved by the Nirvana Void Realm. The female corpse in front of him turned out to be an almighty Nirvana Void Realm when she was alive. Just thinking about it made Su Yu's scalp tingle. But then, Su Yu felt a piercing pain in his head. Then, the soul in the female corpse's body collapsed. There was nothing in the female corpse's body now, so if he wanted to use her power, he would have to consume Su Yu's soul. Su Yu wanted to use the female corpse as a fighter, but it seemed that unless it was a life-and-death situation, it was better not to use it. A casual slap could consume a trace of his soul. If she fought with all her strength, wouldn't Su Yu's soul be consumed in half an hour? If the demonic ape puppet was a waste of money, the female corpse in front of him was a waste of life. Shaking his head, he controlled the female corpse with a trace of his soul and made her follow him. Then, he returned to the city calmly. However, in order to avoid being recognized, Su Yu controlled the female corpse to enter the city alone and find an inn to stay in. He returned to the city alone. As soon as he entered the city, Su Yu saw the reward posted at the city gate. Hundreds of martial artists were looking around. It seems that the little demon master has not been found yet. Su Yu smiled. As he was about to leave, he turned around and saw a pair of bright, clear eyes. Her eyes were filled with shock, and she stared at Su Yu without blinking. Su Yu's eyes swept over her face, and he was shocked. He looked at her in disbelief. It was a beautiful face, so beautiful that it was indescribable. Su Yu had spent many days with her when they were in the outer region. Su Yu, I'm not dreaming, am I? The beautiful woman stepped forward and pinched Su Yu's face. She touched his chest, her eyes full of surprise. After she was done, she hugged Su Yu and cried tears of joy. I thought you were dead. She was none other than Xie Xiaoye. From the leader of the Xiaoye pirates in the Pirate Alliance, to enemies and finally to friends. When Su Yu broke through to the Path Master level and absorbed the Pathfire, she thought he was buried in it. Disheartened, she returned to the 8-star civilization. She had never even dreamed that she would one day reunite with Su Yu. Moreover, they were in an 8-star civilization. Su Yu's heart was filled with indescribable joy. They were in a strange place, but they were familiar people. Have you hugged enough? Su Yu smiled. Xie Xiaoye let go of him hurriedly. There was a hint of shyness in her fair, jade-like face. She was instantly charming and charming. I forgot that you have a wife. How could Xie Xiaoye forget Qin Xianer? There had been a misunderstanding in the past. Su Yu smiled as he looked at Xie Xiaoye. I thought you were unusual. I didn't expect you to be from an 8-star civilization. Xie Xiaoye smiled apologetically. Chapter 25-25. She had encountered many dangers in the ancient region. The most dangerous time was when she became the Beast Slave King's slave, and the treacherous Beast Slave King almost succeeded in taking her. Fortunately, Su Yu appeared. It's fine. Su Yu waved his hand. Why are you in Nanming City? Xie Xiaoye rolled her eyes. I just happened to wander here. I don't have a place to stay. If you have one, take me with you. This, even without her request, Su Yu would have asked if she had a place to stay. But it did not feel right for her to ask Su Yu to take her with him. Although they were friends, there was a difference between a man and a woman. All right, I still have some friends at the inn I'm staying at. Since you're alone, you can come with us. Xie Xiaoye smiled. Hee, having you is enough. Not long after. In the inn. Yu Xiangwan spun the teacup on the table in boredom, pondering. Brother Su treats me with sincerity. Shouldn't I reveal some things to him? It was true that he came from a small domain. It was true that he came from a small region, but it was not so simple to achieve what he had today. He had another identity. But just like how Su Yu's identity as the successor of the ancient god Jielong had been kept a secret, his identity could not be easily revealed to outsiders. At this moment, Su Yu walked in from outside. Yu Xiangwan perked up a little and smiled. We're finally back. Suddenly, he froze. This was because a peerless beauty was following Su Yu intimately. That beautiful face was more beautiful than all the women he had seen in his life. However, upon closer inspection, an undetectable trace of azure light flashed across his eyes. Yu Xiangwan's expression changed, as if he had discovered something. After a few moments of shock, he managed to regain his composure before Su Yu came in. Brother Su, this is? Yu Xiangwan asked, pretending to be surprised. Su Yu smiled. My friend from the outside world, Xie Xiaoye. She has also come to an 8-star civilization. We just happened to meet. Oh! Yu Xiangwan had a look of realization and revealed a strange smile. Brother Su is really lucky to have picked up such a beautiful lady just by going out for a trip. You found a son first and a beauty the next. Sigh, why don't I have such good luck? Xie Xiaoye was startled, her tone bitter as she laughed with difficulty. So you have a son? The last time he saw Qin Xianer, she didn't have it, right? In the blink of an eye, Su Yu had become a father. I picked him up. Su Yu added, however, my son should have already been born. Xie Xiaoye's expression, which had just gotten a little better, instantly dimmed again. As expected. Miss Xie, may I ask where are you from? Yu Xiangwan asked with a smile. Xie Xiaoye looked at him, and her eyes became deep. Me? What's wrong with an ordinary girl? Xie Xiaoye said meaningfully. Yu Xiangwan chuckled. Nothing, I'm just asking. Xie Xiaoye smiled faintly and fell silent. Su Yu looked at the two of them meaningfully. Are you hiding something from me? No. Xie Xiaoye and Yu Xiangwan said at the same time. Just as Su Yu was about to ask more questions, a figure rushed in. It was Chongyang. Su Yu, come here. I have something for you to do, Chongyang said anxiously. He glanced at Xie Xiaoye out of the corner of his eyes and was stunned by her beauty. However, he didn't have time to pay attention to her and went to the secret room with a dark expression. Su Yu told Xie Xiaoye, don't run around. Wait for me. After he finished speaking, he immediately left. Not long after he left, the spinning teacup in Yu Xiangwan's hand gradually stopped. He looked at Xie Xiaoye, his eyes filled with blue light. Miss Xie, Brother Su is my most precious friend. I hope you don't have any bad ideas about him. Otherwise, you might regret it. Xiaoya crossed her arms in front of her chest and sneered. Who do you think you are? When I first met Suyu, I didn't even know where you were. How dare you warn me? Her relationship with Suyu was extraordinary. How could she allow others to sow discord? Is that so? I didn't even know that Brother Su is acquainted with the future successor of the demon faction, the little demon master. Yu Xiangwan's eyes were sharp. Suyu might not be able to see through it, but Yu Xiangwan could see things that the transparent eye couldn't. The woman in front of him had the appearance of a human, and it was her true appearance. She was indeed a peerlessly beautiful woman, this was not a lie. However, he could clearly see the blood flowing in her body. She had two sets of energy channels. One meridian flowed with the blood of ordinary humans, while the other contained the incomparably obscure blood of the demon race. As far as he knew, there was only one kind of person in the demon faction who was born with a human body. That was the demon master and his descendant. Therefore, at first glance, Yu Xiangwan was sure that Xiaoya was the little demon master who was wanted by the entire Nanming city. Xiaoya chuckled. A wisp of demonic energy flashed in her eyes. How much better are you? A corpse who has achieved the path. Xiaoya said coldly. In Su Yu's life, he has fought with the corpse clan many times in the outer realm. I'm afraid he doesn't have any good feelings toward them. Yu Xiangwan's pupils shrank. A wisp of deeply hidden death energy gathered in his blue pupils. Xiaoya giggled. So, you'd better behave yourself too. Su Yu is the person I like. If you dare to touch a single hair of his, I dare say that you won't be able to walk out of the dream's severed boundary alive. As a demon, Xiaoya was very sensitive to sinister races like the Corpse Clan. Suyu might not have sensed it, but Xiaoya did. The two of them looked at each other. There was a sharp murderous intent hidden in their eyes. If it wasn't for Suyu, the two of them would probably have started fighting on the spot. At the same time, in the secret room, Chong Yang's face was gloomy. He said, according to the latest news, the Empress Star Rain's mine was robbed by an unknown person. The Empress is furious. Su Yu's face was calm. Who is so daring as to rob the Empress's mine? Who knows who is not afraid of death? Now, the Empress is venting her anger on everyone. She has already refused to sell the evil spring. Chong Yang's face was even uglier than a pig's liver. What? Su Yu was also stunned. How could this be? He had only dug up some mines. Did the Empress Star Rain have to be so angry? What did that person dig up to make the Empress Star Rain so angry? Su Yu asked tentatively. Chong Yang slapped his thigh and said angrily, I heard that he dug up the female corpse that the Empress had been digging for 100 million years. 100 million years? Only then did Su Yu realize that the Empress Star Rain might have discovered the existence of the female corpse a long time ago. In the end, she had accidentally helped Su Yu and the baby. Now, the Empress Star Rain has given the order to expel all outsiders from the city. We have come in vain this time. Chong Yang sighed. He had worked so hard, but in the end it was all for naught. Su Yu was also annoyed. Is the Empress Star Rain still a child? Why is she so willful? Chapter 25-26. Shoo! Chong Yang hurriedly shut his mouth and chided. How dare you speak so bluntly about the Empress? Do you want to die? If someone were to hear it and spread it to Empress Star Rain, the consequences could be imagined. Su Yu did not take it seriously. Wasn't he just a descendant of the Time Sovereign? So what if I scolded him? He had beaten them before. What should we do now? Su Yu asked. Chong Yang shook his head. We have no choice but to retreat. However, before leaving southern Ming City, we need to dispose of the 9 nether crystals that are worth 8 million time crystals. Even without his explanation, Su Yu understood the reason. If the Empress chased them away from southern Ming City, there would definitely be chaos outside the city. At that time, it was inevitable that there would be people who would harbor evil thoughts and rob their small sections. Therefore, it was best to dispose of the netherworld crystal and convert it into a time crystal. The time crystal could be deposited in a bank in South Bright City. He would come back for it when it was safe. Let's split up and take action. Each of us will take care of a part of it. I'll leave the rest to you. He passed a storage space to Suyu. There were level 8 and level 9 nether crystals inside, weighing about 50,000 kilograms. It was estimated to be worth 1 or 2 million time crystals. Go! Chongyang waved his hand. Suyu nodded. When he left the secret chamber and passed by the main hall, he saw that Xie Xiaoye and Yu Xiangwan were fine. The two of them were even talking and laughing, and the atmosphere was very harmonious. Suyu, where are you going? Sell some 9 serenities crystals. I'll go too. Xie Xiaoye stepped forward and hugged Suyu's arm affectionately. Yu Xiangwan got up from her seat. Brother Su, I'll go too, it's safer. He and Xie Xiaoye looked at each other secretly, hostility in their eyes. Suyu rubbed his nose and looked at the two of them. You too. Fine, wait for me to come back. It's just a small matter. I'll be back soon, so you don't have to follow me. How observant was he? There must be something between the two of them. After saying that, he left alone. In South Bright City, there were only 2 ways to exchange netherworld crystals for time crystals. The other was through private channels. As long as there were people willing to buy and sell, it would be fine. The other was the official channel, which was the exchange hall set up by Queen Star Rain. If he wanted a small amount of 9 nether crystals, he could obtain them through private channels. However, if he wanted a large amount, he could try to obtain them all he wanted. So, Suyu went to the exchange hall of the Empress Star Rain. However, when he rushed over, it was overcrowded. Everyone was flocking and madly exchanging for the netherworld crystal. It seemed that the smart people who planned ahead were not only the inner sect disciples of Greater One sect. Those with a bit of foresight were all thinking of ways to avoid risk. Suyu went forward to inquire about it. Only then did he know that the exchange rate had been reduced to a shocking level. Normally, in South Bright City, the exchange rate of 8th grade netherworld crystals and time crystals was 1 to 20. 500 grams of 8th grade netherworld crystals could be exchanged for 20 time crystals. But now, 500 grams of 8th grade 9 nether crystals could only be exchanged for 5 pieces. It had shrunk by more than 5 times. The netherworld crystal in Suyu's hands was originally worth $1 or $2 million. Now it was not even worth $500,000. Isn't Empress Star Rain a little too shady? Are they trying to take advantage of the situation? Suyu was speechless. Right when he was hesitating, a strand of suppressed and muffled sound resounded from behind him. Little brother, do you want to exchange for the time crystal? 1 to 20. When Suyu turned his head to take a look, he saw a sneaky person who seemed to be talking to the air unintentionally. You are a merchant from the evil cult. Suyu pondered. Even if the exchange rate was 1 to 15, the merchant would still make a profit. The only worry was that the other party was from the black market. After thinking for a moment, Suyu nodded. Lead the way. The latter led the way without batting an eyelid. After a few twists and turns, they arrived at a remote area. When he went forward, there were already a few people in the deserted yard. It looked like they were all waiting to sell the netherworld crystals. Sorry for the long wait. The merchant laughed and cupped his fists. We have gathered 8 people, let's begin. A girl's crisp voice could be heard. Suyu walked over and saw that it was a golden-haired young lady. Her long golden hair was soft like a waterfall, her snow-white face exquisite and beautiful. Her eyes were like dots of paint and her brows looked like they had been drawn with a brush. Her figure was exquisite, thin, and beautiful. She also had an outstanding temperament, not like an ordinary person. What a beautiful young lady. She should only be 15 years old. When she grew up, she would definitely be a peerless beauty. But Suyu's heart did not waver, and he retracted his gaze after a casual glance. Let's begin now. Take out all the netherworld crystals you have. We merchants still have credibility. Everyone took out their netherworld crystals one after another, and the number was very large. Su Yu's netherworld crystals, which were worth 1 or 2 million time crystals, could only be considered average. As expected, the merchant exchanged his credibility for the crystals one by one. In the end, Su Yu obtained 2 million time crystals, 400,000 less than he had expected. He wondered if Chongyang would blame him for this. After the exchange, everyone was about to leave. Only the golden-haired young lady stood motionless on the spot. She said leisurely, "I didn't expect the demonic faction to have some credibility. I thought you would do evil." The merchant laughed dryly. "Of course we merchants have some credibility. Otherwise, how can we compete with the Star Rain Empress for food?" The golden-haired young lady crossed her arms over her chest and wrinkled her nose. "It is precisely because you have credibility that I cannot keep you." Whoosh! Streams of incomparably tyrannical aura suddenly surrounded them from all directions. There was no lack of Nirvana realm strong men among them. The merchant was shocked. He glared at the golden-haired young lady. "Are you with the Star Rain Empress? She must have reported them." Su Yu was furious. Wasn't this Star Rain Empress too much? She had taken advantage of them, yet she did not allow others to find other channels. The golden-haired young lady raised her head proudly. "Humph, capture them all." Several auras immediately rushed over. Su Yu was angry and glanced at the golden-haired young lady. Without saying a word, he secretly used the space domain and teleported behind the young lady. Then he lifted his foot and kicked her butt. How could the young lady guard against someone who could teleport? Caught off guard, he was sent flying by Su Yu's kick and fell flat on his face. She turned her head angrily and looked into Su Yu's eyes. "Informant! Serves you right." Su Yu cursed and immediately used the tortoiseshell given to him by Yuxiang Wan to escape from the ground. In the blink of an eye, he had disappeared without a trace. The several strong men surrounding them could only watch helplessly, unable to track Su Yu's whereabouts. The golden-haired young lady got up from the ground and looked at her dirty blue dress. She was trembling with anger. "Guards! Find him for me!" Touching her burning butt, the golden-haired young lady was ashamed and angry. Whoosh! Several strong men immediately appeared in front of her and knelt on one knee. They said respectfully in unison, "Yes, Your Majesty." Su Yu had no idea who he had kicked. He returned to the inn calmly. Chapter 25-27. At that time, Jiang Xuanzhong, Ji Xianling, and Hua Li had returned. Their faces did not look too good. Seeing that Su Yu had returned, Chongyang asked immediately, "Did you succeed in the exchange?" "Yes, but because of the large amount of 9 Serenities crystals being dumped in the city, its value has fallen greatly, and it has not been sold for the value it should have," Su Yu said truthfully. Chongyang sighed as if he had expected this. Jiang Xuanzhong scolded, "Chongyang, I told you not to hand it over to these useless outer sect disciples. They will only follow the prescribed order and waste our 9 nether crystals for nothing." Su Yu sighed in his heart. He had done his best, but the result was not satisfactory. Chongyang patted Su Yu's shoulder and said, "Don't be discouraged. Eldest senior brother was just saying that out of anger." The 3 senior brothers didn't go to the redemption hall. Instead, they found a private exchange and successfully exchanged at a rate of 1 to 10, which helped the sect recover a lot of losses. If it was given to the redemption hall, it would at most be half of what it was now. Even so, 3rd senior brother was still cheated out of his pocket. The fact that you were able to exchange for it means that you've conformed to the norm. There's nothing wrong with that. Su Yu was recommended by Chongyang, so he naturally had to protect him. Hearing this, Su Yu was startled. Their exchange rate was only 110? And he was robbed? How dare he say he was useless? Chongyang opened his spatial storage device and said, "You only brought back 400,000 time crystals, right? According to the exchange rate in the redemption hall, it should only be 400,000. Hee, I'm afraid that you might not even have 400,000. The exchange rate is constantly being lowered. If you exchange without thinking, you will only be cheated by others. Huoli vented his frustration on Suyu. Suyu furrowed his brows. He was not a clay bodhisattva. It was one thing for him to say one or two sarcastic remarks, but there was no end to it. No matter how little it is, it's still better than you being snatched away by someone else, Suyu said coldly. Pa! Huoli smashed the teacup in his hand and yelled furiously, Impudent! Do you know who you're talking to? I know. He's a useless person, yet he still vents his anger on others, Suyu said bluntly. Huoli was already furious to begin with. Now that an outer sect disciple poked his sore spot, he was naturally enraged. Kneel! Huoli ordered coldly. The golden-armored hall master looked on coldly from the side, happy to see this. He had wanted to attack Suyu for a long time, but he didn't expect that Suyu would seek his own death before he could do anything. As an outer sect disciple, he actually dared to challenge an inner sect disciple. They really don't know how to write the word death. Suyu chuckled. Suyu did not have any respect for such people, who did not dare to take revenge after suffering outside and only knew how to be arrogant in their own home. Not to mention kneeling to him. Hee, the outer disciples nowadays are really outrageous. Huoli stood up and said coldly. He was going to take action himself, but just as he was about to take action, Chongyang shouted out of the blue. How is this possible? He exclaimed, causing Huoli and the others to look over. Huoli asked with a murderous aura, was it because of this brat that we only have a few 9 darkness crystals left? Jiang Xuanzhong and Ji Xianling subconsciously thought of the same thing, and their faces immediately darkened. No! Chongyang lifted his eyes and looked at Suyu. His eyes were filled with deep surprise and confusion. He handed the space storage device to Jiang Xuanzhong and said, Senior brothers, take a look at it yourself. Jiang Xuanzhong was the first to look at it. His pupils shrank as he glanced over it. How is this possible? There were 1.2 million time crystals neatly placed in the space storage device. The 4 of them had each used 2 million time crystals worth of 9 darkness crystals to exchange for them. In the end, the total amount that the 3 of them had exchanged for was only a mere 1.2 million. But what Suyu had gotten was the sum of all of theirs. As an inner sanctum disciple, this made him feel even more incredulous and slightly embarrassed. Soon after, Ji Xianling also finished looking at it. She covered her red lips in disbelief, and looked at Suyu from head to toe in surprise. Huoli had a strange look on his face. What's wrong with you? It seemed like it wasn't because he had exchanged for too little. Ji Xianling looked at Huoli meaningfully and handed the space storage device to him. Take a look and you will understand. He took the space storage device and scanned its contents. His expression changed drastically. 1.2 million? This is impossible. No one replied. The 1.2 million time crystals were lying there. It was the most irrefutable evidence. The 3 inner sanctum disciples fell silent. Apart from Ji Xianling, the other 2 looked a little embarrassed. They had just berated Suyu, an outer sanctum disciple, for being useless. In the end, they couldn't even compare to a single outer sanctum disciple. What they had just said was like a resounding slap to their own faces. Chongyang was secretly gratified. He gave Suyu a thumbs up, indicating that he had done a good job. The person he had recommended was indeed extraordinary. Cough, cough, in this case we have recovered the loss of 2.4 million time crystals. In total, we have only lost 2/3, Chongyang concluded. Hearing this, Huoli's expression was the ugliest. He had suffered a great loss because he had been robbed of a portion of the 9 darkness crystal. When we return to the faction, I will ask the higher-ups for your credit. Chongyang said happily. Suyu cupped his fists and said, Thank you, Senior Brother Chongyang. After a brief moment of awkwardness, the atmosphere slowly eased. Jiang Xuanzong coughed lightly and said, "Then, let's set off. We will deposit the time crystals in the Nanming City Bank and return to the faction." Everyone nodded. In such a situation, they could only leave. The group was discussing in a secret room. Suddenly, there was an urgent knock on the door. When they opened the door, it was Yu Xiangwan. There was a tinge of anxiousness on his face. "What are you knocking for?" Jiang Xuanzong shouted coldly. Yu Xiangwan could not care less about his attitude. "Let's go, the Nanming City Imperial Guards are surrounding our inn. If we don't break out now, it will be too late." Yu Xiangwan, who had special eyes, was the first to notice the movement of the Imperial Guards. Behind her, Xie Xiaoye's expression was also grim. She had just received an urgent message from the demon faction. The Imperial Guards were gathering at her location. It was possible that her identity had been exposed and Nanming City knew about it. Jiang Xuanzhong's expression changed. He naturally did not believe that Yu Xiangwan was an outer sanctum disciple. However, at this moment, in the chaos of war, it was better to believe that it was true than not. "Let's go," he ordered decisively. Everyone immediately used their own techniques to leave the inn and gathered at a corner of the city wall. Not long after they left, an almighty Nirvana Void cultivator led a group of extremely powerful Imperial Guards to the inn. After surrounding the inn, everyone inside was captured and sent back to the Imperial Guard. At a corner of the city wall, in a hidden straw hut, Huo Li, who was dressed in a black robe, returned sneakily and met up with everyone who had gathered there. "What's the situation?" Jiang Xuanzhong asked. Huo Li's face was slightly pale, and he said with lingering fear, "I don't know what happened, but everyone in the inn we were staying at was captured. Not even the innkeeper and the waiters were spared." Chapter 25-28. Have the Imperial Guards gone mad? Why did they suddenly come to arrest people all of a sudden? Ji Xianling had a look of lingering fear. Fortunately, Yu Xiangwan informed them in time, and they left first. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Jiang Xuanzhong thought for a while and said, "It should be a wanted person in our inn. It should not be targeting us." Everyone agreed with his words. After all, their identities were clean, and they came from small sects far away. He was far from being the target that the southern Ming city's Imperial Guards were wantonly trying to capture. Su Yu was the only one who calmly touched his nose. He felt slightly guilty as he thought to himself, "Could it be that I kicked the old woman who reported the news and got myself into trouble?" That beautiful golden-haired girl was obviously not simple. But of course, he wouldn't say it out loud. He nodded his head like a chick pecking at grains. "Yes, eldest senior brother is right. I wonder which bastard attracted the Imperial Guards." Jiang Xuanzhong looked at Su Yu in surprise. Why does Su Yu's attitude seem so strange? "Eldest senior brother, what should we do now?" Ji Xianling asked. Should he continue to take the risk and deposit the time crystal into the bank, or should he just go back? "Let's wait and see. We'll decide after the situation calms down," Jiang Xuanzhong said. Just like that, the group of people quietly concealed themselves. For several days there was no movement. Only then did they relax. Jiang Xuanzhong stood up and said, "I'll go store the time crystal. Prepare yourselves. We'll be leaving now." But right at this moment, a joyous cheer came from outside their hiding place. "Empress Star Rain is showing mercy. She's agreed to sell the evil spring again. Today is the day. Go grab it." Someone raised his arms and cheered, causing an uproar. Jiang Xuanzhong was stunned. The veins on his forehead bulged. He clenched his fists tightly and said angrily, "What the hell is that Empress Star Rain doing?" The rest of the inner disciples' faces were ugly as well. He cancelled the sale first, causing them to sell the 9 underworld's crystals in their hands at a low price. However, when they finished selling and were about to leave, the Empress started selling again. Even Jiang Xuanzhong couldn't help but curse out loud. In fact, he was not the only one who was cursing. Almost all the people who had sold the 9 Serenities crystals were cursing. They had been tricked too miserably. Now, with the time crystals in their hands, they could only buy back a third of the original Netherworld crystals. It was even more difficult for them, who were already struggling to make ends meet. That Empress Star Rain did it on purpose, didn't she? Finally, Jack Xuanling came to a realization. First, he deliberately created chaos, and made them sell the 9 Serenities crystal at a low price to the exchange hall of the Empress. Then, he gave them hope, and in this way, they bought back the Netherworld crystals at an expensive price. With this trip and return, Empress Star Rain had profited greatly. As an empress, you still plunder the wealth of our people. She's too black-hearted. Huoxinli gritted his teeth. Su Yu's eyes flashed. He had long felt that Empress Star Rain's decision was too hasty, like a child's play. So there was more to it than meets the eye. That Empress was indeed a black-hearted person. What do we do now? Redeem the Netherworld crystal? Ji Xianling had the urge to cry. They hurried over from thousands of miles away and were toyed with in the palm of someone else's hand. They were truly unwilling. Do I have to go back empty-handed? Jiang Xuanzhong gritted his teeth. I know it's a trap, but I have no choice but to jump in. He went to the exchange hall alone to exchange for the Netherworld crystal. However, the exchange ratio almost made Jiang Xuanzhong vomit blood. The current exchange ratio had reached 1 to 50. In other words, 50 time crystals could only be exchanged for 1 caddy of 8th grade Netherworld crystal. In this way, the amount of Netherworld crystal he could exchange for was less than 500,000 caddies. In just a few days, the Netherworld crystal in their hands had shrunk by 8 times. In the exchange hall, Jiang Xuanzhong saw many people like him who had been cheated. But they were all like him, bracing themselves to exchange for it. Seeing this, Jiang Xuanzhong's mood improved. With so many people being cheated, this meant that everyone's Netherworld crystal had shrunk. They might not necessarily be unable to buy the evil spring. After returning, Jiang Xuanzhong invited the other 3 inner sanctum disciples, as well as the Golden Armor Hall Master. As for the rest of you, wait here for the time being. Jiang Xuanzhong looked at Su Yu meaningfully. Although Su Yu had displayed extraordinary abilities, he could not be of use to purchase the evil spring. If danger were to befall them, they could let Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan stay at the back to buy time for them. After they left, Yu Xiangwan, who was lying on a haystack, sat up, her eyes cold. Brother Su, you guessed it right. These people have no intention of sharing the evil spring with us. They did not even allow the 2 of them to participate in the purchase process, let alone the final distribution of the evil spring. Su Yu wasn't surprised at all, and he asked, Are you ready? Yu Xiangwan took out a black robe that she had prepared and put it on. Even with Su Yu's transparent eyes, he could not see Yu Xiangwan under the black robe. Su Yu smiled, also putting on a disguise. It looks like brother Su Yu is going to do something interesting. Then I'll add one too. Xie Xiaoye wiped her face with her small palm. Her beautiful face immediately turned back into the ordinary appearance of the Xiaoye leader. The 3 of them disguised themselves and went to the auction site of the evil spring. It was located in the plaza in front of the Empress's hall. A 9-colored fountain the size of a copper coin gushed out from the crack in the center of the plaza. That was the famous evil spring of the south. One only needed to swallow it to level up their domain. Around the evil spring, there were 10 white-robed old men standing. Every one of their cultivation levels was unfathomable. Su Yu looked at them and felt as if he was looking into an abyss. It was suffocating. It should be the Pathmasters, Yu Xiangwan murmured, her expression grave. With so many strong men guarding it, even if the demon faction attacked with all their strength, they would not dare to snatch it. Moreover, there were even more powerful beings guarding the Empress's hall. If the demon faction dared to come, they would definitely die. When the number of people in the plaza had reached its limit, a pretty woman dressed in men's clothes walked out with her hands clasped behind her back. She was about 200 years old, but her cultivation had reached the shocking nirvana later stage. I am the 8th female servant of the Star Rain Empress, Xiao Yu. I am here on the orders of the Star Rain Empress to sell the evil spring. The young girl named Xiao Yu had bright eyes. With a wave of her hand, all the spring water in the evil spring was drawn up and circled in front of her. With a few points of her fingers, the evil spring was divided into 5 portions. There were 100 drops in each serving. 100 drops of the evil spring, and 1 portion is only enough for 1 person, Xiao Yu said honestly. Before they came, they only knew that the evil spring could level up one's domain. However, how much evil spring would be enough was still unknown. Now that they knew that 1 portion was only enough for 1 person, the hearts of the people in the plaza could not help but sink. There were only 5 portions, and 1 portion was only enough for 1 person. How intense would the competition be then? Many people who did not have many 9 Serenities crystals in their hands were already sighing deeply. This was because they knew that they would not stand a chance. Chapter 25-29. The quantity was too little. The competition would be hundreds of times fiercer than he had imagined. Su Yu was not confident that he had enough 9 Serenities crystals. The method of purchase is through bidding. Whoever offers the most 9 Serenities crystals will get it. Xiao Yu waved her hand, taking out the first portion. The starting price is 1 million time crystals of 9 Serenities crystals. 1 million? Jiang Xuanzhong and the others had ugly expressions. 1 million, they only had 1 million. Harboring some hope, Jiang Xuanzhong said, 1 million, but just as he finished speaking, a powerful voice interrupted him. 2 million. 3 million. 4 million. The glimmer of hope on Jiang Xuanzhong's face was completely shattered. He could only watch as the price continued to climb and soared to 7 million. Although, as Jiang Xuanzhong had expected, there were not many who could bid, there were still many who were rich. 8 million. Finally, an old man in a Taoist robe calmly called out a sky-high price that no one could surpass. Xiao Yu smiled. Congratulations, you have won the first portion of the evil spring. Please follow me to the secret chamber to exchange later. For some reason, they did not exchange on the spot, choosing to do so later. Although the crowd was a bit dissatisfied, they did not object. Empress Star Rain would not be so untrustworthy as to try to cheat others, right? Now, let's bid for the second portion, Xiao Yu said with a smile. The starting price is still 1 million. 8 million. At that moment, Su Yu suddenly called out. Moreover, it was 8 million in one go. Such boldness, as if he was determined to get it. This caused the old man in the Taoist robe to hesitate. He looked at Su Yu profoundly, but chose to give up in the end. All right, congratulations, sir, for winning the second portion of the evil spring. She took out the third portion of the evil spring. The third portion, starting price, 1 million. 8 million. Su Yu once again called out a sky-high price. The buyers were in an uproar. Who is this person? 2 bids, and he has already bid for 16 million time crystals. Besides the demon faction, only the 10 great factions would have such boldness. Xiao Yu looked at Su Yu profoundly, nodding slightly. Congratulations, sir, for winning the third portion. The fourth portion, starting price, 1 million. Su Yu was about to start bidding when the old man in the Taoist robe spoke first. 9 million. Xiao Yu smiled and looked at Su Yu. Who wants to increase the price? Su Yu was calm. He had obtained 16 million 9 Serenities crystals from the Greater One sect, and he had obtained approximately 10 million 9 Serenities crystals from the Empress's Ore Cave. Looking at Xie Xiaoye beside him, Su Yu clenched his teeth and said, 10 million. The Taoist-robed old man was slightly surprised. He pondered for a moment and was about to continue bidding. However, he seemed to have received some news and stopped the auction. At this moment, the crowd exploded. That young man shouldn't be a devil, right? The 3 auctions have already exceeded 20 million time crystals. Yeah, even the 10 great sects might not be able to produce so many 9th hell crystals. Xiao Yu's eyes flickered as she smiled and said, "Congratulations, the 4th portion of the evil spring belongs to young master. Next, the last evil spring, the starting price is 5 million. There was only one last piece left, so naturally, they would fall into an even more frenzied scramble. But in the end, the old man in the Taoist robe successfully bought it for a sky-high price of 13 million. Although Jiang Xuanzhong and the others were unable to participate, they were still deeply shocked by the shocking spending of the old man in the Taoist robe and the black-robed man. What an eye-opener! Huoli looked at the black-robed man, his eyes filled with jealousy. They were both young men, but the gap between them was too great. Ji Xianling nodded. This trip was not in vain, to be able to see so many divine beings bidding. She smiled bitterly. In the end, they, the people of the small factions, were only here to decorate others. They had no idea that the divine being that they were envious of and surprised was actually the little outer sanctum disciple that they looked down upon. The auction for the evil spring ended at an even more shocking speed. It had only lasted for a short period of 2 hours. The 2 who have obtained the right to bid, please follow me. Xiao Yu smiled and made an inviting gesture. Su Yu hesitated for a moment, then entered the Empress Great Hall with the old man in the Taoist robe. Under Xiao Yu's guidance, they came to an ordinary secret room. The 2 of you, please take out the 9 Serenities crystals for inspection. Xiao Yu smiled like a spring breeze. Su Yu nodded and took out the corresponding number of 9 nether crystals. Half of them were 7th grade and 8th grade 9th hell crystals, and the other half were 6th grade 9th hell crystals. After checking, Xiao Yu said, "Not bad." Then, he looked at the old man in the Taoist robe and nodded, "Not bad too." Su Yu took a look at the 9 underworlds crystal in the Taoist-robed elder's hand and discovered that there were actually 4th grade 9 underworlds crystal fragments within it. Moreover, the aura of the fragment seemed familiar to Su Yu. Demon sect. He immediately recognized the Taoist-robed elder's identity. This 4th grade 9 nether crystal was the same 4th grade 9 nether odd crystal fragment that was used to cut out the female corpse at the Heavenly Awakening Grand Meeting. The female corpse and the fragments had been taken away by the demon sect. Was there even a need to ask where the old man in the Taoist robe had gotten the fragment from? He was the leader of the sect that the evil cult controlled in the open. Of course, there was no need for Su Yu to point it out. The abyss crystals are both correct. Now, let's verify their identities to prevent people from the demon sect from sneaking in. Xiao Yu was all smiles. "Young master, please remove your disguise." Su Yu's heart thumped and he squinted his eyes. Was he really just on guard against the people from the evil cult? However, since things had come to this, Su Yu could only take the risk. He removed his disguise and revealed his true appearance. Xiao Yu was nonchalant. She used a unique detection treasure to scan the 2 of them, but did not detect any characteristics of the demon sect. The test is correct. The transaction shall proceed. She distributed the 5 evil springs to the 2 of them. Su Yu received 3, and the Taoist robe elder received 2. Please take care. Xiao Yu will not see you off. Su Yu looked at Xiao Yu. Although she was smiling, he did not know why, but he faintly felt that this woman was secretly staring at him. It gave Su Yu a very bad feeling. After leaving the secret chamber, Su Yu immediately rushed out of the hall. But the more he walked, the more uneasy he felt. From walking to galloping, he finally decided to use space teleportation. He rushed to the entrance of the Empress Great Hall in one breath. He was about to step out when suddenly, a golden-haired figure appeared in front of him. That figure had appeared extremely abruptly. Su Yu was certain that this person had not been in front of him just now. Moreover, the other party had not teleported over, as there was not the slightest bit of space fluctuation around him. If it had been in the past, Suyu might not have been able to immediately understand what was going on. But after fighting with Xiaohao, how could he not know the reason? The realm of time. He fixed his eyes on the figure, and what shocked him was that the golden-haired figure in front of him was the extremely beautiful golden-haired young lady whom he had sent flying with a kick a few days ago. Chapter 25:30. We meet again, human. The girl smiled dangerously. Suyu's heart skipped a beat. Realizing that something was wrong, he immediately stepped out of the Empress Palace. However, as soon as he stepped out, the exit of the palace in front of him moved strangely and disappeared. It was replaced by a wall, which stood in front of Suyu. With the help of the space domain, Suyu realized that he had not left the palace. Instead, he had been dragged into the depths of the Empress Palace. Human, you want to run away after kicking my butt? The golden-haired girl was both angry and embarrassed. Swish, 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 swish. Several figures descended one after another. They were the 10 elders who had protected the evil spring just now. Each of them was at the level of a Earth Master. Yes, Your Majesty! The 10 Earth Master elders shouted in unison. Suyu's face turned green. Your Majesty? In the entire southern part of the Dream-Broken Realm, there was only one person who was qualified to be called Your Majesty. The Star Rain Empress. Suyu's heart skipped a beat. What he had been afraid of had really happened. Before this trip, he had been most worried about running into the descendants of the Time Master. In the end, not only had he run into them, but he had also become enemies with the descendants of the Time Master. What was worse was that he had fallen into the enemy's hands. He did not know how strong the Empress was, but with the 10 Earth Masters, even if he used the 8 great domains, he would not be able to escape. His heart sank little by little. You stay outside and guard me. I will avenge myself. The Star Rain Empress stared at Suyu with a livid face. Yes. The 10 Earth Masters left for the time being. However, Suyu did not doubt that as soon as the Empress gave the order, they would all appear. Ahem, the messenger woman. As Suyu was speaking, he looked at the Empress Star Rain's widened eyes and immediately corrected himself. I mean, Empress, it seems like you can't blame me. You set a trap yourself, and I could only fight back. It would have been better if he hadn't said anything, but the moment he did, Empress Star Rain became furious. Her golden hair fluttered even though there was no wind. She said angrily, Then why didn't you just run away? Why did you kick me there? Suyu coughed dryly. That's because you went too far. Not only did you cheat ordinary people of 9 Serenity's crystals, but you also didn't allow us to trade them privately. Oh? Are you saying that I was wrong? Empress Star Rain's eyes began to show signs of danger. That was the truth. His heart was so black, so shameless, so shameless. Now, no one was allowed to talk about it? It's my fault, my fault. Of course, these words could only be said in his heart and not out loud. Queen Star Rain bared her teeth. Fine, then I'll punish you. Lie on the ground and raise your butt. What do you want to do? Suyu asked. Empress Star Rain's pretty face was cold. Of course I'll kick him back. Damn it. He was really unwilling to have his butt kicked by a little girl. But the situation was stronger than the person, so if he got kicked, then so be it. However, Empress Star Rain's next sentence made Suyu fall out with her. I want you to lie here for 100 years and get your butt kicked every day. Do you hear me? As the Empress who ruled over the South, no one dared to disobey Empress Star Rain's orders. He said that he would be punished for 100 years, so he would be punished for 100 years. Screw you. To Suyu, 100 years was too long for him. He would rather die than be delayed here. Dog slave, how dare you talk to me like that? Empress Star Rain took out a crystal hourglass. As the hourglass ticked, the surrounding time immediately stopped. Suyu was also frozen. Empress Star Rain carried the hourglass angrily, went behind Su Yu, and lifted her foot to kick him. However, to Empress Star Rain's surprise, Su Yu, who was obviously frozen in time, actually moved. His hand shot out like lightning, grabbing Empress Star Rain's ankle. Before Empress Star Rain could react, she was pulled onto his thigh by Su Yu. What a surprise! The descendants of the Time Master have to rely on a magical treasure to activate the Time Realm instead of relying on their bloodline. He had thought that all the descendants of the Time Master had a powerful bloodline like Xiaohao. Now it seemed that was not the case. The Time Realm of this magical treasure was at the same level as his Time Realm, which was both at the primary level. Therefore, it could not do anything to Su Yu. Why aren't you affected by the time domain? Queen Star Rain screamed. Why do I need you to care? As he spoke, Su Yu raised his hand and gave her but a hard slap. Who asked you to be so insolent? Queen Star Rain was both angry and embarrassed. She hurriedly covered her mouth. Her pretty face was already flushed red, and she said angrily and embarrassedly, "You even hit my butt. Humph! You've caused me to end up in such a miserable state. Hitting you a few times is already a light punishment." Anyway, they were currently in a frozen time frame. The 10 Earth Path Masters simply did not know what had happened. After a few more slaps, Empress Star Rain's initial anger and humiliation turned into tears in the end. Su Yu was embarrassed. I don't think it's necessary. He only wanted to be a little strict, but he didn't want Empress Star Rain to be so spoiled. After being spanked a few times, she would cry loudly. Looking at her, who was still a young girl, Su Yu stopped and said, "If you cry again, I'll strangle you to death." Queen Star Rain immediately stopped talking and wiped away her tears. What do you want? Send me out. Su Yu just wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. Queen Star Rain nodded obediently. All right. With a thought, the entire hall changed on its own. A giant door appeared in front of Su Yu. You can leave, Empress Star Rain said. Su Yu then turned around and dashed toward the outside world. However, just as he was about to dash over, the giant door changed into a wall again. He was brought back to the depths of the hall by the marvelous formation in the hall. At the same time, Empress Star Rain cancelled the frozen time frame and shouted, "Guards, come and protect me!" As she shouted, she turned around and ran. Looking at Su Yu, her eyes were full of humiliation and anger. Human, I'll teach you a lesson. Unexpectedly, Su Yu seemed to have expected it. I knew it would be like this. Time reversal. As Empress Star Rain stared blankly, a giant hourglass appeared on Su Yu's back. The sand inside flowed in reverse, causing the surrounding time to flow in reverse. In the blink of an eye, Empress Star Rain returned to the moment when she was lying on Su Yu's thigh and had her but spanked. I told you to call for help. Su Yu raised his hand and slapped her again. Empress Star Rain had already forgotten the burning pain on her butt. She struggled continuously and said in surprise, "Are you also my father's illegitimate child?" Also? Su Yu stopped when he heard the keyword. Empress Star Rain nodded vigorously. Yes, I'm also an illegitimate child. Are you also an illegitimate child? She misunderstood that Su Yu's mastery of the time domain came from his bloodline. Su Yu's eyes flickered slightly. Chapter 25:31. Although the spanking felt good now, it was impossible to maintain the time domain forever. Once the time domain was over, Su Yu would die without a proper burial. Now that Empress Star Rain had mistaken him for the illegitimate son of the Time Dominus, he naturally went along with the flow. Why would you think so? What if I succeeded in cultivating it on my own? Su Yu asked. Empress Star Rain wiped away her tears and said joyfully, "How could you have comprehended the time domain in a world ruled by the Time Dominator? The ruler of time between heaven and earth. Anyone who wanted to comprehend the laws of time needed the Time Sovereign's permission. Not to mention time domain? Apart from his own descendants, The Time Sovereign would never allow anyone else to master his time domain. That was why Empress Star Rain thought so. Suyu played dumb and said, "I don't know how my time realm came about. It seems like it just appeared out of nowhere one day." Yes, you must have awakened the bloodline of the ruler of time. Empress Star Rain was unusually happy for some reason. Suyu touched his nose. And then? So I should let you go? As he spoke, he was about to hit again. Queen Star Rain quickly said, "Don't. We are all abandoned illegitimate children. Why don't we join forces to fight against our brothers?" Join forces? To be honest, Suyu had never expected that he would one day join forces with the descendant of the Time Master to deal with another descendant. However, it had to be said that this was a heaven-sent opportunity. For him to go up against the descendants of all 8 hegemons by himself was no small feat. If he could borrow the power of the Star Rain Empress, it would undoubtedly create many opportunities. "I don't think I have any enmity with them, do I?" Suyu said hypocritically. Empress Star Rain crawled up from his lap and said seriously, "I really envy you for being able to live so stupidly. You don't even know when you're about to die." "Why do you say that?" Suyu was puzzled. Empress Star Rain's eyes dimmed a little. She said, "How many rulers of time do you think there are in this world? Just one? Since ancient times, there has only been one ruler of time." The Star Rain Empress continued, "Then what do you think will happen to the other heirs once one of them becomes the ruler of time? Killed." Suyu took it for granted. Even in the mortal empires, there were many bloody scenes similar to the struggle for the throne. He wasn't killed. The Star Rain Empress smiled sadly. "We will become a part of the new Time Sovereign's body. We will all die when the new Time Sovereign is born and return to his body. One descendant became the ruler, and the rest became nutrients? This was indeed a little cruel. So, let's work together. We might have a chance of turning the tables." Empress Star Rain felt as if she was grasping at straws. Suyu stroked his chin. "What are the requirements to become a master? Let's see who can master the domain beyond origin level first." Queen Star Rain stated her only condition with certainty. Suyu nodded. "Fine. What level has your time realm reached?" In order to confirm whether she really did not have the time domain, Suyu asked. Queen Star Rain drew a circle with her thumb and index finger guiltily. "You on level?" Suyu's heart skipped a beat. Queen Star Rain blushed and shook her head. "It's 0. I haven't even condensed my time domain yet." Suyu shook his head. "Forget it, just pretend I didn't say anything. Just wait for your death." Xiaohao had already mastered the middle grade time domain. How could Queen Star Rain compete with him? "Don't be like this. I'm actually working very hard." Queen Star Rain clenched her fists and pouted, trying to cheer herself up. For a moment, Suyu was struck by her cuteness. Regardless of her identity, she was not too bad. At least, she was much better than those snobs in the Greater One faction. "Fine. I want to fight against the real descendant of the Time Master with an illegitimate son who hasn't even evolved his time domain." Suyu smiled bitterly. This was extremely difficult. "Please, brother." Empress Star Rain hugged Suyu's arm and shook it repeatedly. Suyu felt a little strange. "Brother?" Looking at the delicate and beautiful young queen, Suyu's heart was touched. In the past, he had never been touched so easily. Am I old?" Suyu muttered to himself. Since he had picked up a son, his state of mind seemed to have changed a lot. He had changed from a teenager to a young man, and now he was a mature father. "Fine, sister." Suyu patted the back of her hand. "Thank you, brother." Queen Star Rain was still a little shy. After all, she had just met her brother. Suyu thought for a moment and said, "Let me check your body first to see why you haven't awakened the time domain." Queen Star Rain couldn't ask for more. "That's great. Please help me check it, brother." She didn't know if it was because she was an illegitimate son, but Queen Star Rain hadn't been able to awaken the bloodline of the time domain. She had also begged other descendants of the Time Master, but the result was obvious. Mocking and ridiculing her was already considered a light punishment. Those who were vicious and even wanted to take the opportunity to kill her. After all, they would be each other's competitors in the future. Who would be willing to help a competitor awaken the bloodline? Suyu checked her bloodline and opened his eyes slowly after a moment. Queen Star Rain's beautiful eyes were full of expectation. She couldn't wait to ask, "Brother, how is my bloodline?" "It's very good," Suyu said. Delight appeared on the Empress Star Rain's face, but Suyu added, "I gave you a perfect reason to wait for death." What's wrong?" Queen Star Rain couldn't check her own bloodline, so she could only ask someone who was also proficient in the time domain to check it. This was the first time someone could check the condition of her bloodline. Suyu shook his head and said, "The time domain inherited in your bloodline has been completely broken. No wonder she couldn't awaken her bloodline. It turned out that her bloodline was useless." Useless! Queen Star Rain's eyes lost focus. Then, she threw herself on Suyu's thigh and cried bitterly. "I don't want to. I don't want to die. But I can help you complete the time domain." Suyu added one last sentence. Queen Star Rain's crying stopped abruptly. She raised her head abruptly and stared at Suyu with tearful eyes. Her cheeks puffed up and her fists clenched tightly. "Can you finish what you want to say at once?" She really wanted to throw herself at him and beat him up. Suyu smiled. "However, you must be mentally prepared. The process is very long, at least 10 years. I've waited for more than 100 years, so why would I care about 10 years? Queen Star Rain's eyes shone brilliantly as if she had found hope again. Suyu stood up and said, "I've delayed it long enough. I'll go out and meet up with my friends to hand over the evil spring to them." Suddenly, Queen Star Rain revealed a smile. Her beautiful eyes turned into 2 crescent moons as she smiled. "I'll give you a gift." "What?" "Come with me." Then, she brought Suyu to her palace. Behind the palace was a giant lake with a circumference of hundreds of miles. "This lake is for you," Queen Star Rain said with a smile. Suyu was confused. "What do I want the lake for?" "Hee, the lake? Take a look." Queen Star Rain waved her sleeves, and a 9-colored moon appeared. Under the illumination of the moon, the whole lake was illuminated by 9 colors. Suyu's whole body shook, and his pupils contracted. He said in surprise, "Don't tell me that the whole lake is an evil spring?" Chapter 25-32. Evil Spring? A whole lake of evil spring? Suyu took out the 3 bottles of evil spring that he had painstakingly obtained and compared them with the water in the whole lake. He found that they were exactly the same. With a wry smile, Suyu sighed. "You are really cruel." There were so many evil springs, but they only took out a fist-sized portion, which made the evil springs scarce and intensified the competition. Not only that, but they also deliberately created chaos in the middle of the process to plunder everyone. The Star Rain Empress stuck out her pink tongue. "I can't help it. It's not easy to be an empress. The whole southern part of the Dream-Broken Realm is yours. What's so difficult about it?" Suyu rolled his eyes. This sentence was similar to what the emperors in the mortal world said, "It's not easy to be an emperor." "Hey! Do you think my status, my life, and the experts who protect me are all for nothing?" The Star Rain Empress said slowly. Suyu realized that the Star Rain Empress was a descendant of a Time Master. Her life was really too leisurely. Moreover, as she said, the descendants of the Time Master regarded each other as mortal enemies. So, why did they allow the Star Rain Empress to enjoy such benefits? All 344 factions in the Dream-Broken Realm have to hand over the 9 Serenities crystals to the Time Master. Don't we, the descendants of the Time Master, have to do the same? The Star Rain Empress said self-mockingly. Not only do we have to pay, but we have to pay more than the ordinary factions. Suyu suddenly realized that the Time Master was quite indifferent to his descendants. He treated them like his subordinate. Only in this way can the Time Master be satisfied and grant me everything I want, as well as provide me with protection. Only then will the other descendants not dare to attack me. If the 9 Serenities crystals are not enough, I will lose everything I have now. Hearing this, Suyu seemed to understand the cruelty of being a descendant of the Time Master. Touching the Star Rain Empress' head, Suyu said, "You control so many minds, so there should be no problem." Hearing this, the Star Rain Empress smiled even more bitterly. "You only see the surface," the Star Rain Empress said. "There are no mines that can be dug forever. According to my estimation, the mines in Nanming City can only last for a few decades, or even less." That was true. Once the 9 Serenities world was dug, the mines would be abandoned. "So, I have been trying to find new mines," the Star Rain Empress said. Suyu suddenly thought of something. "I seem to have heard that Xiaohao once appeared at the border of a small clan in the south of the Dream-Broken Realm." Hearing this, Empress Star Rain clenched her fist. His eyes were spitting fire. "Humph! That's because the mines in the territories ruled by Great Emperor Xiaohao are about to dry up. That's why they've set their sights on my territory. The most infuriating thing is that he bullied me because I was powerless to resist and swaggered over with his 7 stars bodyguard. It really was like that. Xiaohao had appeared at the border of the Greater One sect for no reason. I've already sent people to investigate the mine. It's huge. It's more than 10 times bigger than the mine outside of Nanming City. Xiaohao must have heard the news and went to investigate. 10 times? What did that mean? The scale of the mine outside South Bright City was more than 100 times that of the Greater One sect. The size of the mine was unimaginable. One step at a time. Suyu's eyes flickered. Then, Suyu looked at the evil spring, which was full of evil, and jumped into it. Other people's evil spring needed to be swallowed drop by drop. But Suyu could take a bath in it. Wisps of the evil spring entered his body through his pores. His right eye felt a slight pain. That was because the 8 great domains had been stimulated and were swelling up. "Brother, cultivate first. I'll go and settle some matters outside." Empress Star Rain left with a smile. Suyu heaved a sigh of relief. This was better. During the promotion of the domains, the 8 great domains would inevitably be exposed. It would be inconvenient for her to be there. Seizing the time, Suyu swallowed even more. As he swallowed more and more, the swelling and pain in his right eye became more intense. That was because the 8 great domains were continuously being promoted. "It's really effective." Suyu was delighted. He could clearly feel the 8 great domains improving one after another. Time passed by slowly. Suyu's right eye patch could no longer suppress the 8 great domains, which were sealed within it. Pieces of 8-colored light shone from within. Finally, when the swelling reached its limit, the eye patch exploded with a bang. 8 more dazzling rings of light overlapped in his right eye, rotating rapidly. Lu Zhu had once said that when the domains were promoted, there would be hope to control the 8 great domains, which had gone out of control. At this moment, the 8 great domains had been baptized by the evil spring and had expanded to their limit. The final moment. Suyu once again sucked in the evil spring. The 8 great domains, which had been revolving around his right eye, flew out of his right eye like a wheel that had gone out of control. Then, they slowly stopped rotating and turned into the 8 great domains, which surrounded Suyu. The 8 great domains were obviously very different from before. First was the time domain. There used to be only 1 hourglass, but now there were 2 of them. Next was the space domain. It used to be a galaxy, but now it was a vast, majestic universe. The soul domain, the life domain, the death domain, the fate domain, the reincarnation domain, and the creation domain had all changed greatly. Time stopped. Suyu shouted softly, and the 2 hourglasses rotated at the same time. Not only were they more stable, but they also covered a wider area and targeted a higher realm. Space travel. Suyu tried again. He and the evil spring lake both flew to the border of Nanming City. The distance he could travel was 10 times greater than before. Suyu tried the rest of the domains one by one, and the power of the domains increased by several times. No wonder it was so difficult to fight Xiaohao that day. The middle-level domain is much stronger than the low-level domain. Suyu muttered to himself. If he met Xiaohao again, Suyu wasn't sure he could kill him, but he wouldn't be in a passive position like last time. Suddenly, he sensed something and immediately stopped the 8 great domains. Everything around him became peaceful again. Brother, have you broken through the time domain? The Star Rain Empress came in and looked at the lake. Her eyes widened. Where did you take all my evil spring? The huge lake was now only 2/10 of its original size. Suyu realized that he had consumed a shocking amount of evil spring to break through the 8 great domains. When he had broken through to the Path Master level, his Dao marks had reached 800. In other words, the amount of evil spring he needed to break through to the domain level was 800 times that of others. It wasn't strange that he had absorbed most of the evil spring. However, looking at the Star Rain Empress, who was about to cry, Suyu felt guilty. He said embarrassedly, "Don't worry. The remaining evil spring should be enough for you to raise the time domain to the middle level." The evil spring was only useful for the low-level domain. Otherwise, he would have continued to raise it. The evil spring that I have accumulated for tens of thousands of years is gone. The Star Rain Empress wiped her tears. Chapter 25:33. She only rewarded him a little each time, and he had accumulated it for many years. However, after she left for a while, it was almost all gone. Suyu flew over and said, "Don't cry, I'll compensate you." He held the palm of the Star Rain Queen and entered her bloodline with his own time domain. The broken time domain fragments, under the intermediate time domain straightened out, a trace of overlap. However, the process was quite slow. 2 hours passed, and only 2 fragments were reconnected. This was because he had broken through the intermediate time domain, otherwise he would not be able to reconnect many fragments in a day. Try again. Suyu released his hand wearily. Using the time domain for a long time consumed a lot of his body. The Star Rain Queen stretched out her finger and pointed forward. Time was stagnant for less than a breath. But even so, the Star Rain Queen still jumped in surprise. "Ah! The time domain, it's the time domain." Looking at the bouncing blonde girl, Suyu smiled with relief. The Star Rain Queen's eyes flashed quietly. She turned around and looked at Suyu. She wanted to be grateful, but she was embarrassed. She snorted proudly. "For the sake of you not lying, I forgive you." Suyu did not lie to her. Her bloodline could indeed be restored. As long as she persevered, she would succeed. Let's continue. Suyu rested for a while and continued to reorganize the time domain in her bloodline. Half a day later, 4 fragments of time had been reorganized for her. She was already proficient in making signs of stagnation in a small area. "Brother, it's so nice to meet you." She sat on Suyu's thigh and leaned in his arms. Her fingers twined around her long blonde hair, and her face was full of enjoyment. "I have always been alone in the Queen's Hall. I used to think that I would be alone until I died, but I didn't expect to meet you, brother." Suyu looked at her long shadow under the setting sun. He suddenly felt a sense of empathy for her, as if they were in the same boat. Along the way, wasn't he also lonely? Looking at the blonde girl sitting in his arms, Suyu's heart softened, and he gently held her shoulder. "I am also very happy to meet you." At this moment, he had a sense of belonging to a person who had fallen into the same predicament. Perhaps he was not mistaken about this sister. "From now on, Big Brother will accompany me in the Queen's Hall. Eat together, take a walk together, cultivate together, together." Queen Star Rain's snow-white calves swayed as she imagined her future life. Suyu opened his eyes and said, "I'm afraid we can't be together for now." "Why?" Queen Star Rain turned her head and asked in surprise. Su Yu said, I still have friends outside. You can bring them with you. I don't mind, she said hurriedly, while her hands unconsciously grabbed Su Yu's clothes. It was as if she was afraid that he would never come back. Su Yu patted her shoulder and said gently, Let me finish. I need to make a trip back to the faction to settle some matters. I'll come back right away, okay? He never broke his promise. Since he had promised to help her recover her bloodline, he would not go back on his word. Empress Star Rain pondered for a moment before saying, I'll go with you then. Su Yu looked around the Empress' Great Hall. Can you leave Nanming City? As the Empress, if she did not keep watch over the southern center of the dream-broken realm, and left in a hurry, there would probably be great trouble. But, Empress Star Rain said uneasily. Su Yu clasped his fingers together. I swear, okay? I'll come back in at least 2 years, or at most 5 years. The oath of a path master would be answered by the heavenly law, and it was extremely effective. Seeing this, Empress Star Rain felt relieved. She mumbled, Okay, I'll send a guard to protect you. Does she mean the 10 Path Masters? Su Yu shook his head. It's just a small matter. I can settle it myself. It was better not to let Empress Star Rain's people know that he was looking for the sinful Lady Palace. He trusted Empress Star Rain, but he might not trust her guard. He guessed that among those guards, there might be other spies of the descendants of the Time Master. Okay, if there's anything, send me a message. She took out the fragrance pouch from her waist and said, This is a protective talisman. It can even block the attacks of the Heavenly Law Masters. Only the Time Master could give it to her, right? Moreover, she should only have one with her. But she still gave it to him so easily. Looking at Empress Star Rain's clear eyes, Su Yu felt warmth in his heart. She really thought of him as a reliable brother. Thinking of this, Su Yu kissed her forehead and looked deeply into her eyes. I won't let you down. Empress Star Rain's exquisite face blushed slightly. Can a brother kiss a sister so casually? Wait for me. After saying this, Su Yu bid farewell and left the Empress' Great Hall. Outside the Great Hall, Xie Xiaoye and Yu Xiangwan had been waiting for a whole day. The elder in the Taoist robe had come out long ago, but Su Yu hadn't shown up yet, which made them very anxious. Just as they were about to take action and sneak into the Empress' Great Hall, Su Yu swaggered out. Su Yu! Brother Su! Both of them rushed forward, their faces full of surprise. Why did you come out now? Xie Xiaoye's eyes were full of worry. She complained, I thought you were taken away by the Empress to be the palace master. Su Yu laughed in disdain. More or less, he didn't get into the palace master, but he did make the Empress his sister. I'm fine, let's talk somewhere else. The three of them came to a corner. Su Yu took out 2 jade buckets, saying, One for each of us. The 2 of them opened the buckets in confusion, and what came into view were 2 large buckets of evil spring. Oh my God! So many evil! Xie Xiaoye stopped abruptly, looking around cautiously. Her beautiful eyes were filled with deep astonishment. Yu Xiangwan was equally shocked. 2 buckets of evil spring was more than 10 times the amount of evil spring that was sold. Where did Su Yu get it from? Take it, Su Yu said. He then looked at Xie Xiaoye with a look of reluctance. Yu Xiangwan and I are about to return to the faction. What about you? Coming back to her senses, Xie Xiaoye felt lost. She wanted to leave with Su Yu, but it was impossible now. The people of the demon faction would not allow her to disappear again. Which faction are you in? If there's a chance in the future, I'll look for you, Xie Xiaoye asked. With the abilities of the demon faction, they should be able to find the location of any faction. A small faction, the Greater One faction, Su Yu said. Unexpectedly, Xie Xiaoye's beautiful eyes shrank. The southernmost Greater One faction, bordering the Jingtian faction and Tianqi Palace? You know about it too? Su Yu was slightly surprised. The Greater One faction was only a small faction, and it was very remote. It was a little surprising that Xie Xiaoye knew about it. Xie Xiaoye's eyes were filled with panic. She pulled Su Yu and said, "Can you not go back and stay with me?" "Why?" Su Yu's eyes flickered. He felt that Xie Xiaoye's expression was a little strange. "Is there something you're hiding from me?" Xie Xiaoye wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, she did not dare reveal her identity. "No, I just don't want to part so soon." Xie Xiaoye tried to hide her guilty conscience. She was unwilling to confess, so Su Yu naturally would not pursue the matter. "I have something to deal with when I return to the faction, so I must leave. Let's talk again next time." Xie Xiaoye tried to persuade him to stay, but Su Yu insisted on leaving. She could only watch as Su Yu gradually disappeared from her sight, mumbling, "I can't go back to the Greater One faction. That place is going to be a land of death." But she could not explain this to Su Yu. Chapter 25-34. Not long after, Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan came to the suburbs, but the rendezvous point was already empty. Jiang Xuanzhong and the others had already left. What a joke! We were just 1 day late and they abandoned us. Yu Xiangwan felt that she and Su Yu were inferior in the eyes of the inner sanctum disciples. They were nowhere to be seen. Could they have returned to the faction first? They were not willing to wait any longer. Su Yu touched his chin and said thoughtfully, "Don't be too presumptuous. Even if they left first, they should have sent us a message, right?" Others might not dare to say so, but Chong Yang did admire him, and Yu Xiangwan a little. They should have at least sent a message. Yu Xiangwan thought that made sense. She looked around, walked quickly to a tree, and picked up a leaf. But on the leaf, there was a drop of blood. "It's Jiang Xuanzhong's blood." Yu Xiangwan recognized the aura in the blood and shuddered. Jiang Xuanzhong was at the early stage of nirvana. Was his combat power high? How could someone hurt Jiang Xuanzhong? Moreover, they had no choice but to leave in advance, and they hadn't even left a trace of news for them. No. They might not have left early. Or perhaps they had been taken away by someone. "Brother Su, I'm afraid they are in big trouble." Yu Xiangwan's face darkened. Was there a need to say more? Go back to the faction now. But it's better not to go back the way we came. Su Yu's eyes flashed. He also guessed that they might have met with misfortune. Beep beep. But at that moment, Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan's communication treasures rang at the same time. The two opened it and saw that it was a message from the golden-armored Hall Master. "Come and help. A strong enemy is attacking northwest of the city." Yu Xiangwan looked hesitant. "Brother Su, should we go or not?" Jiang Xuanzhong and the others couldn't deal with a strong enemy. How much help could the two of them make? But if they didn't go, the consequences would be dire if the faction found out about their inaction. "Go!" Su Yu decided decisively. Although it was unlikely that Jiang Xuanzhong and the others would return to the faction, it was better to be safe than sorry. If they really returned, Su Yu's plan to be promoted to a hall master would be in vain. The two of them reached a tacit agreement and immediately headed northwest. Several hours later, an incomparably violent fluctuation came from the front. The nearby mountains and rivers had already been completely destroyed and turned into scorched earth. Corpses were visible to the naked eye, and there were more than 10 of them lying on the ground. However, in the center of the scorched earth, there were more than 20 people. Every one of them was at least at the middle nirvana realm. Jiang Xuanzhong and the others were surrounded by them. All of them were wounded, especially Chong Yang. His entire body was riddled with scars, his life hanging by a thread. Apart from that, Hua Xinli and Ji Xianling were also having a hard time. Only Jiang Xuanzhong and the golden-armored hall master fared slightly better. However, when faced with enemies several times their number, they were still unable to cope. In particular, there was a powerful early-stage Nirvana Ascension cultivator among the enemies. Jiang Xuanzhong and the golden-armored hall master, who were surrounded, found it difficult to deal with the unpredictable attacks. Occasionally they would be injured. It was only a matter of time before they were killed. They wouldn't be able to hold on for long. What the? Yu Xiangwan clicked her tongue. Does our Greater One sect have any enmity with anyone? Why are so many experts besieging you? Just the number of middle nirvana experts besieging him was comparable to more than half of the hall masters of the Greater One sect. This did not include those who were already dead. Moreover, what kind of enmity was it that was worth them besieging him at all costs? Su Yu was also puzzled. The Greater One sect was just a small faction, and it was located deep in the southern border. They usually kept a low profile. At most, they would have disputes with the surrounding Zhengtian faction. How did they provoke such strong enemies? There seemed to be more to it than meets the eye. You too, since you are here, why aren't you attacking? While they were observing, the golden-armored hall master noticed the two of them. He waved his sword and roared. Yu Xiangwan's eyes flickered with a faint blue light. She sighed. Brother Su, be careful. Having said that, she leaped and flew over. Su Yu followed closely behind, his expression unchanged. Sensing that there were two more enemies behind him, the early-stage Nirvana Ascension cultivator did not even turn his head. Go, finish them off. Immediately, two middle Nirvana Ascension cultivators split off and rushed over. Kill! The enemy on the left attacked Yu Xiangwan fiercely. He immediately released his domain, which was not weak. It was a poisonous gas domain. Once it engulfed the enemy, it could quickly turn them into a pile of mush. Yu Xiangwan had nowhere to hide and was enveloped by the poisonous gas domain on the spot. However, the sound of Yu Xiangwan's screams did not appear. Instead, two beams of sharp blue light shot out from the misty poisonous gas. The blue light shot out leisurely and turned into two halos of light that hit the enemy. Swoosh! The strong enemy was instantly surrounded by the blue fire and burned into a pile of white bones. Yu Xiangwan walked out of the poisonous gas, his eyes burning with blue flames that had never been extinguished. He looked down at his arm. A large part of it had been corroded by the poisonous gas. However, wisps of black gas slowly seeped out and quickly repaired the corroded area. Looking at Su Yu, he looked even more relaxed. Several thunderbolts swept across and destroyed the enemy until nothing was left of him. The tragic deaths of the two people surprised the strong enemies who were besieging them. The Greater One faction has some good seedlings. The strong Nirvana Ascension cultivators snorted coldly and sent 8 of them to kill the two people. As a result, the pressure on Jiang Xuanzhong and the others was instantly relieved. They were surprised and delighted. They were surprised that Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan, whom they looked down on, actually had such extraordinary abilities. They were delighted that there was finally a glimmer of hope to break out of the encirclement. Jiang Xuanzhong's eyes flashed as he secretly sent a telepathic message to Ji Xianling, Huoli, Chongyang, and the golden-armored hall master. Let's take this opportunity to escape using the displacement formation. Hearing that, the others had no objections. Chongyang was the only one who replied, we can't. After all, both Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan are here to save us. How can we exchange him for a chance to escape by putting him in the desperate situation we are in? The so-called displacement formation was a formation that only the inner sanctum disciples of the Greater One faction were proficient in. Through the sect token, two people in different positions could be exchanged at the same time. Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan both had the faction disciple token. They were the only ones who could exchange their positions. However, if Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan were to be placed in an environment where they were surrounded by dozens of people, they would not be able to last long and would die tragically. They had come all the way here to rescue them, but they had to sacrifice their lives. It was really inappropriate. Jiang Xuanzhong said resolutely, Junior brother Chongyang, the overall situation is more important. The 4 of us are the future of the faction. At this critical moment, we can only sacrifice ourselves for the greater good. I believe the 2 of them will understand us in the future. How shameless was that? Sacrificing oneself for the greater good had always meant sacrificing oneself. However, Jiang Xuanzhong was shameless enough to use it to refer to others, and he even said it in a dignified manner. The funniest thing was that he had said they would understand them after they died. How could they understand? Huoli said, "That's right. Their sacrifice will not be in vain. The Greater One faction will remember them forever." Chongyang struggled internally. Who would want the Greater One faction to remember them? However, they were determined, and Chongyang could not resist. This was because Jiang Xuanzhong had secretly activated the displacement formation. A complicated formation appeared on his palm, radiating brilliance. As he moved, the same formation appeared on the palms of the others. The 5 of them activated the formation at the same time, and a dazzling light burst out. A strange formation suddenly appeared under the feet of Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan, who were dealing with the enemies. Su Yu's eyes turned grave, and he knew it was not good. He wanted to avoid it, but there was a powerful force interfering with Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan, preventing them from moving. The next moment there was a short-distance space fluctuation, and the positions of the two changed instantly. When they reappeared, they were at the place where Jiang Xuanzhong and the others had just appeared. They were facing dozens of enemies. Yu Xiangwan immediately came to her senses and roared angrily, "You bunch of damn things!" They had traveled thousands of miles to rescue them, but they had been betrayed. And betrayed by the people they had saved. However, countless strong enemies attacked, and Yu Xiangwan could not breathe. In particular, the attack of the Nirvana round expert made her despair. However, Su Yu was prepared. With a wave of one hand, a giant golden-black puppet appeared in front of the 2 of them. Roar! The giant puppet let out a loud roar and beat its chest with both arms. A powerful shockwave swept out in all directions. The attacks that were sweeping toward them were all pushed back. Even the attack of the early-stage Nirvana round expert was stopped for a moment. Thunder! Su Yu let out a low roar, and 8 bolts of thunder as thick as mountains took the opportunity to descend. Under the cover of the thunder, several strong enemies were vaporized into nothingness. Yu Xiangwan also took the opportunity to attack, her eyes spitting out intense blue flames. The flames turned into rings of light, hitting the enemies. Every time it hit someone, one person died on the spot. That was how Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan managed to block this wave of attacks. However, it was only this wave of attacks. There were too many enemies. When they recovered, the Nirvana Realm cultivator immediately tangled up with the devil ape puppet that was going all out. The other strong enemies quickly attacked. Fortunately, before Su Yu attacked, he had already prepared the next move. Little Kylin. In an instant, the little Kylin jumped out and stood on Su Yu's shoulder, spitting in all directions. A large amount of 9 nether-green fire was instantly spat out, burning half the sky. Immediately, dozens of strong enemies were ignited, their souls quickly burning. The Nirvana round expert's scalp went numb. What's going on? Their main targets were Jiang Xuanzhong and the other disciples of the Inner Sanctum. However, why were these 2 people from the Greater One faction of unknown origin more terrifying than the disciples of the Inner Sanctum? In just a few rounds they had killed many of them. On the other side, Jiang Xuanzhong and the other 4 switched places with Su Yu and the others, only facing 8 middle Nirvana level experts. The result was obvious. They were killed by Jiang Xuanzhong and the others in an instant. As such, Jiang Xuanzhong and the others broke out of the encirclement. Go! Without even looking at Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan, he took out the faction's flying treasure and immediately fled with everyone. Chapter 25-35. Just as she was hesitating, Su Yu seized the moment when she was absent-minded and took out the tortoiseshell. Let's go! He grabbed Yu Xiangwan with one hand and swept the puppet away with the puppet of the devil ape with the other. In the end, he could not be bothered with Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan, whose identities were unknown. He turned around and chased after Jiang Xuanzhong and the others. Chase them. They had sacrificed so many people, but they could not even take care of a single supreme sect person. In the distance, a turtle shell broke through the ground. Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan appeared. Yu Xiangwan took a deep breath. Her face was pale and full of hatred. Damn it! He was still angry at Jiang Xuanzhong's betrayal. In the eyes of the inner court disciples, what were they? Or perhaps it didn't even count as an item? As for Su Yu, he was extremely calm and did not seem surprised at all. Let's return to the faction first, Su Yu said slowly. The two of them immediately took a detour. On the other side, Jiang Xuanzhong and the others fled frantically, but since the enemy had come prepared, how could they allow anything to happen? Not only were they good at tracking, but they were also good at killing. It didn't take long for them to catch up to Jiang Xuanzhong and the others. Jiang Xuanzhong and the other four paled. It's over. He still couldn't escape. Eldest senior brother, it will be difficult for us to escape. Ji Xianling's eyes were filled with despair. She held a sharp sword and placed it on her neck. As beautiful as she was, she knew very well what would happen if she fell into the hands of the enemy. That would be worse than death. Rather than that, it was better to end it in advance. Junior sister, please wait. Jiang Xuanzhong gritted his teeth and said, I have a life-saving Dharma treasure personally given to me by the sect master. With a whoosh, a purple jade pendant appeared in his palm. The jade pendant faintly surged with an enormous force that surpassed the profound way. Before that power, all of them felt that they were tiny like ants. The group of powerful enemies that were chasing after him sensed something and stopped in their tracks, staring at him in terror. Do you want to die? Once you activate it, even you won't be able to avoid it, right? The eyebrows of the Nirvana stage cultivator twitched. Indeed, when the sect leader handed it over to him, he had personally said so. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he would not use it, because once he activated it, even he would lose his life. This thing could only scare the enemy away. If they couldn't scare him away, then they could only die together. In any case, if I fall into your hands, I'll still die. Why don't we die together? Jiang Xuanzhong said coldly. He was betting on whether or not the other party was afraid of death. He was very satisfied with the result. The Nirvana realm expert revealed a look of hesitation. All right, as long as you're willing to surrender, I swear to the heavens that I'll spare your lives. Yuan Nirvana's gaze shifted. Jiang Xuanzhong sneered. Do you think we're 3-year-olds? Spare our lives, but make us suffer a fate worse than death. This does not go against your oath at all. Either you leave now, or we'll stay here together. A struggling expression appeared on Nirvana Yuan's face. Jiang Xuanzhong relaxed. He had won. He could already see the fear in the eyes of the Nirvana stage cultivators. However, at this moment, Jiang Xuanzhong suddenly felt something cold on his wrist. Then, his back suffered an extremely ferocious attack that pierced through his Dao body. A bloody claw pierced through his chest. His wrist, which was holding the jade pendant, fell like a ripe apple. Jiang Xuanzhong was stunned. He turned his head with great difficulty and saw a hideous face smiling at him. Golden Hall Master. Jiang Xuanzhong's vision became blurry. He could not believe that his own people had killed him from behind just as he was about to succeed. Ah! Ji Xianling and the others screamed and attacked the golden-armored Hall Master. The latter quickly retracted his hand and held the purple jade pendant at the same time. He appeared in front of the Nirvana realm expert in a flash and bowed respectfully before handing the jade pendant over. Sir, I'm fortunate to have accomplished my mission. Ji Xuanling's eyes widened as she screamed, Golden armor, you betrayed the Greater One sect. The golden-armored Hall Master turned around and spat on the ground with a hideous expression. Betrayed? Haha, you make it sound like I'm indebted to the Greater One sect. The golden-armored Hall Master's face was filled with resentment. They made me lead the armament hall and put me in a doomed situation. Why should I still be loyal to the Greater One sect? Huoli did not dare to believe it. When did you betray them? The golden-armored hall master chuckled. Of course it was last time, when the Greater One sect sent me to my death. Last time? That was when Xiaohao's men broke into the Greater One sect's border and coveted the mine. Could it be that the golden-armored hall master had secretly submitted to Xiaohao during that great battle? No wonder we were ambushed at the city gates. You were the one who tipped us off. Jiang Xuanzhong, who was weak, had a look of hatred on his face. They had hidden their identities and waited for Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan at the gate. In the end, they were ambushed by a group of them. It turned out that a traitor had betrayed them. Why didn't you do it earlier? Jiang Xuanzhong was unwilling to die in peace. He could not understand why it was best to strike when they were heavily surrounded. Why did it drag on until now? Ha ha, because I'm also afraid of the treasure that the faction master personally gave you. The golden-armored hall master laughed sinisterly. Jiang Xuanzhong was the most vigilant when he was surrounded. If Jiang Xuanzhong had sensed something and activated the purple jade pendant, they would all be finished. Only at this moment, when Jiang Xuanzhong felt that victory was in his grasp, would it be the time to strike. Jiang Xuanzhong roared in anger and indignation. As he roared, a large amount of blood gushed out, clogging his throat. The Nirvana-round fighter chuckled. What a pity! If you had held on just a little longer, you might have had a chance to escape. Chongyang and the others did not understand. The Nirvana-round fighter was slightly fearful. Although I don't quite understand how the disciples of your faction are divided, those two are much more capable than you. They easily killed dozens of my people and even managed to escape. If you had held on, those two might have really turned the tables. What a pity, you were wrong. What? Hearing this, Jiang Xuanzhong's heart was filled with regret, his chest heaving violently. The remaining blood in his throat gushed out. Then, his body convulsed and fell into Ji Xuanling's arms, never to move again. A supreme ruler of the Greater One sect had been angered to death, just like that. Ji Xianling laughed bitterly. She felt that she and her people had brought this upon themselves. They had lost their lives because of their ridiculous pride. Eldest senior brother, I'll accompany you. Ji Xianling slashed the long sword across her neck. The sword chi penetrated her soul and she committed suicide. Huoli roared angrily and charged toward the golden-armored hall master. You deserve to die. Ha ha. Cram. The golden-armored hall master sneered and casually punched Huoli, turning him into dust on the spot. Finally, only Chongyang was left. The 4 heroes of the Greater One sect. 3 of them had died, and he was the only one left. He raised his head and laughed bitterly, staring at the golden-armored hall master with hatred. I won't let you off even if I become a ghost. Boom! The profound Wei energy in his body swelled, and he exploded from the inside out. The golden-armored hall master said disdainfully, You'd better come find me as a ghost. I'll trample you to death. Just like that, their mission was completed. The Nirvana-round fighter nodded at the golden-armored hall master. Not bad, but the mission is not complete. He handed the purple jade pendant to the golden-armored hall master. Continue to infiltrate the Greater One sect and wait for news. Yes. After a pause, the golden-armored hall master said, If you have no other instructions, I'll leave immediately. I must make preparations before those 2 lads return to the faction. Otherwise, if Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan returned to the faction first and told them the truth, his plan to continue infiltrating the faction would be ruined. Go. The Nirvana-round fighter said. He took one last look at the corpses of the 4 heroes. After confirming that they were completely dead, he led his men and quickly retreated. However, 2 hours later, the throat of the dead Jiang Xuanzhong squirmed. A transparent worm crawled out of his mouth and flew with difficulty to the place where Chongyang had self-destructed. The worm's body emitted a gentle energy, causing Chongyang's shattered body to reassemble into a complete form. Moreover, even his soul was restored. Chongyang opened his eyes in confusion. His eyes were filled with confusion and bewilderment. He had self-destructed, so how was he still alive? Chongyang was dumbfounded. Junior brother Chongyang. An extremely weak voice came from the worm's body. That voice belonged to the eldest senior brother. You're not dead? Chongyang asked in surprise. Jiang Xuanzhong's voice was very weak. This worm is the second treasure given to me by the faction leader. Only the faction leader and I know about it. Its purpose was to resurrect me after my death. Only then did Chongyang realize why he was still alive. It turned out to be because of this life-saving treasure. But eldest senior brother, this was given to you by the faction leader. Why did you resurrect me? Chongyang picked up the worm. Jiang Xuanzhong smiled weakly. I don't have the face to see the faction leader, and I don't have the face to see second junior sister and third junior brother. Before he died, he learned from the Nirvana round fighter that it was his stupid decision that had led to this stage. He was the one who had killed Ji Xianling and Hua Xen. Therefore, he was too ashamed to resurrect himself and gave the opportunity to Chongyang. Ji Xianling had destroyed her soul, and Hua Xian's body and soul had been destroyed. There was no way to resurrect him. Chongyang was the only one who had self-destructed. Although his soul had been destroyed, it was still there. Eldest senior brother. Hearing this, Chongyang looked up to the sky and burst into tears. Although Jiang Xuanzhong was conceited and treated the outer sanctum disciples like ants, he had never neglected the inner sanctum disciples. Hurry back to the faction. Golden armor has gone back again. Jiang Xuanzhong's remnant soul disappeared quickly. Before he died, he sighed. Also, tell the two outer sanctum disciples, for me. In the end, he did not say it out loud. Chongyang was grief-stricken and wept. I know. I will convey your kindness. The worm in his hand gradually withered and finally died. He buried the bodies of his two senior brothers and one senior sister on the spot and kowtowed 3 times on the spot. Then, he flew up to the sky with great resentment. Golden armor. I want you to pay with your blood. A few months later, at the entrance of the Greater One faction, Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan were hurrying back. Therefore, a journey that should have taken a year only took them half a year to return. Hurry up and report to the faction, Yu Xiangwan said. Chapter 25-36. The two of them entered the faction and were intercepted by 2 patrolling disciples at the entrance. Who are you? Outer Sanctum Disciple Su Yu. Outer Sanctum Disciple Yu Xiangwan. Hearing this, the patrolling disciple on the left exclaimed, How dare you? But the patrolling disciple on the right interrupted him, expressionlessly with a smile. So it's 2 Outer Sanctum seniors, please do as you please. With that, he left with the other disciple as if nothing had happened. Yu Xiangwan squinted his eyes, a faint blue light shooting out from his eyes. Brother Su, something is not right. He was neither deaf nor blind. He had seen the words and expressions of the patrolling disciple on the left. Looks like we're late. Su Yu's expression was solemn. The faction should have known that Jiang Xuanzhong and the others had been attacked. But it seemed that the 2 of them were suspected. Su Yu had already guessed what had happened with 1 look and 1 sentence from the patrolling disciple. But it was just a guess and he could not explain it to Yu Xiangwan. There's no hurry to return to the faction. Let's get ready first. Yu Xiangwan agreed. It was better to be safe than sorry. This time, Jiang Xuanzhong and the others had been attacked. It was no small matter. Any mistake would implicate them. Naturally, they had to be more careful. The 2 of them retreated at the entrance of the faction. Brother Su, I'll go over there. Yu Xiangwan's eyes flickered, implying that he would prepare alone. There were some things he did not want Su Yu to know. Su Yu did not mind. Everyone had their own secret. Wasn't he the same? Okay. He chose the other side and came to an empty valley. "Come out!" Rumble. The ground not far in front of him wriggled, and the female corpse that he had controlled with his soul emerged. As an underground master, she was Su Yu's greatest support. Even if the faction master were to cause trouble, Su Yu was confident he could deal with it. At most, he would sacrifice some souls. Of course, it would be best if he did not have to use her. Su Yu sat cross-legged, his mind spinning as he constantly speculated about what was about to happen in the Greater One faction. Many memory fragments flashed through his mind. When Xie Xiaoya found out that his faction was the Greater One faction, her expression and behavior suddenly became strange. Jiang Xuanzhong and the others were suddenly ambushed and attacked by a large number of mysterious people. And the strange expression of the patrolling disciple. There were hundreds and thousands of possibilities in his mind. If I'm not mistaken, Yu Xiangwan and I will be the scapegoats. Su Yu's analysis was unusually accurate. If the Hall Master of the Golden Armor Division was here, he would definitely be shocked by Su Yu's prediction ability. However, even though he had predicted that there would be a fire pit ahead, Su Yu still had to jump into it. Once he was ready, he arrived at the entrance of the sect. After Su Yu came to Yu. Su Yu took a look at him and couldn't help guessing what Yu Xiangwan was preparing. The two of them took a deep breath and stepped into the sect together. They went to the Su immediately. The Hall of Affairs had to be notified as soon as possible when the people who were out were attacked. They had successfully met the Hall Master of the Affairs Hall. Yu, Master the Su, the Master the Xiang Su, he. Xiang Su, Yu Master. Yu, Master. Yu Xiangwan sat up straight. Reporting to Hall Master, Jiang Xuanzhong, Ji Xianling, Hua Xinli, Chongyang, and the rest were ambushed. We don't know if they're alive or dead. Please inform the higher-ups immediately so that they can go and rescue them. He Su. Su Master. Su, he. The Hall Master's face was calm, as if he was already aware of this matter. His pair of deep and serene eyes were sizing up Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan. I am indeed going to report this to the higher-ups. You two traitors have finally returned. The Hall Master's expression turned cold and his eyes were filled with killing intent. Su Yu wore a calm expression. Everything was as expected. On the contrary, Yu Xiangwan exclaimed in surprise, "Traitor, we..." There was anger in his heart. In terms of betrayal, it was Jiang Xuanzhong and the others who had betrayed Su Yu and him. There was no way they would become traitors. Let's go, follow me to see the head steward. The Hall Master released his early-stage middle nirvana cultivation and surrounded the two of them. He thought that he could intimidate the two of them with his aura alone. Little did he know that both Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan could kill him in an instant. Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan got up quietly and followed the clan master to meet the Great Steward. As usual, the Chief Steward meditated silently in the courtyard. "Great Steward, I've brought the two traitors." The clan master bowed. The Chief Steward slowly opened his eyes, which were empty and indifferent. His gaze only lingered on Su Yu for a moment because he had some impression of Su Yu. "What are you waiting for? Execute them on the spot and behead them in public." Yu Xiangwan had thought that she could defend herself when she saw the Chief Steward. Who would have thought that he would kill them to establish his authority? "Great Steward, if we were traitors, why did we come back?" Yu Xiangwan asked. "Whether we are traitors or not, we might as well contact Jiang Xuanzhong and the other 3 inner sanctum disciples, as well as the golden-armored Hall Master. They can testify," he said confidently. They had helped Jiang Xuanzhong and the others but were betrayed instead. He did not believe that Jiang Xuanzhong would be so shameless as to accuse him of being a traitor. "There is no need. Besides the golden-armored Hall Master, the rest are all dead," the Chief Steward said indifferently. "As for the 2 of you daring to come back, it was within our expectations." As he said this, A hint of coldness appeared in his eyes. Because you never dreamed that the golden-armored hall master would come back alive and announce your crimes to the public. What? Yu Xiangwan was shocked. They're all dead. Yu Xiangwan was surprised. Jiang Xuanzhong and the others had clearly escaped, but in the end they still could not escape death. Moreover, the strange thing was that with the abilities of Jiang Xuanzhong and the others, they should not have been completely annihilated, right? Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan rushed over and ruthlessly killed a group of enemies. In theory, even if they were no match for them, one or two could still escape. There was no reason for them to be completely annihilated. Also, what crimes did they commit? Why was it the golden-armored hall master who announced it? Great Steward, we are not convinced. We need to confront you face to face. Yu Xiangwan raised his head. Who could be convinced that they had been killed unjustly? The chief steward furrowed his brows slightly. If they had committed an ordinary crime, he would have killed them. But betraying the faction was a serious crime, and he had to investigate it thoroughly. Otherwise, the disciples would mistakenly think that the faction had killed the innocent, and everyone would panic. Never give up until all hope is lost. Pass the golden armor. Soon, the golden-armored hall master arrived. The moment he saw Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan, he glared at them as if he wanted to kill them and eat their flesh. You two traitors, how dare you come back? Su Yu shook his head secretly. Indeed, it was exactly as he had predicted. Jiang Xuanzhong and the others were most likely dead. And the reason for this must be that there was a traitor among them. Moreover, that traitor had escaped one step ahead of them and accused them of being the traitors. Everything was within his expectations. He had even expected that the golden-armored hall master had already laid out all the evidence so that they would not be able to defend themselves. Yu Xiangwan rebuked him angrily. Golden-armored hall master, you pushed us into a trap. How can you accuse us of being traitors? Unexpectedly, the golden-armored hall master's face was full of righteousness. I don't know what you're talking about. I only know that it was the two of you who colluded with an unknown force to harm us. The golden-armored hall master had a sorrowful expression. Poor Jiang Xuanzhong and the other 4 inner sanctum disciples committed suicide in grief and indignation. He spoke eloquently. Those who did not know the truth would really think that the golden-armored hall master had been wronged. Yu Xiangwan snorted coldly. Great Steward, words are no proof. I can allow you to check my memories. It will be clear whether I have betrayed you or not. The golden-armored hall master chuckled. What a coincidence! I am also willing to reveal my memories and confront you in public. The Great Steward said indifferently, Good, it's best to clarify the matter. He grabbed the air with both hands, and a pained expression appeared on both of their faces. Then, a piece of memory appeared in their minds. They were all memories from a few months ago, right before the great battle. In the golden-armored hall master's memory, they were waiting in a corner when they were suddenly attacked by a large number of mysterious people. They had no choice but to flee while sending a distress signal to Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan. Later, Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan arrived. But in the memory, not only did the two of them not rescue them, but they also cooperated with the mysterious people and joined in the encirclement. In despair, Jiang Xuanzhong and the others committed suicide one after another. In the memory, Yu Xiangwan and Su Yu, whose faces were covered in blood, were grinning hideously. Finally, they bowed to the leader of the mysterious people and rushed back to the Greater One faction. This is fake. Yu Xiangwan scolded. The real situation was not like that at all. She finally realized that the golden-armored hall master was the real traitor. The Great Steward said indifferently, You'll know after watching it. Yu Xiangwan's memory was intermittent. When they received the message, they immediately rushed over. But the battle was very blurry, and there were many signs of it being cut off. In the end, they could only vaguely see the two of them escaping. The golden armor sneered. Do you still need to ask about a memory that has been altered and erased everywhere? It would only be fake to cover up something. Yu Xiangwan was furious, but she really could not explain it, because during the battle, he had used some mysterious methods and even exposed the attributes of the corpse race. How could he dare to leave it in the memory? But this also became direct evidence that he had faked it, and he could not refute it. The facts are clear, there is no room for discussion. Men, kill the two of them. The great steward was extremely cold. Yu Xiangwan still wanted to argue. But Su Yu had already waved his hand and said, "No need to argue, he has already prepared all the excuses. Whatever you say is useless." The great steward was indifferent. "Since you have confessed, that's even better. Bow your heads." "Wait." Su Yu's expression was calm. Since he had already predicted everything, how could he not be prepared? "You have something to say?" Su Yu shook his head. "I have nothing to say, but someone else has something to say." "Who?" "Chongyang." The great steward shook his head. "Chongyang has already perished. On the register, his name has already become dull like ash." Su Yu said indifferently, "Why don't you take another look?" Chapter 25:37. Bringing him back to life would force him to tell the truth. "Is that so?" The great manager took out the registration book and slowly flipped it open. Su Yu held the map that Chongyang had given him, which had the scent that Chongyang had left behind. Resurrecting Chongyang was not difficult. However, when he secretly used the resurrection technique, he was shocked. Not dead. There was no reaction to his resurrection. This was enough to prove that Chongyang was still alive. However, the great manager had clearly said that Chongyang's name had turned gray, a sign that he was dead. The great manager was also shocked, because when he opened the book again, he could clearly see that the name Chongyang on the registration book was glowing with a new light. That was a sign that he was still alive. The golden-armored hall master, who was watching from the side, had a change of expression. A tinge of fear filled his eyes. Chongyang had witnessed the entire process of his betrayal. As long as he came back alive, the truth would be revealed. When that time came, he would die a horrible death. But he could not understand why Chongyang was still alive. He should have died. "I'll send someone to bring Chongyang back," the golden-armored hall master said immediately. The great manager looked at him and shook his head. "Since Chongyang is still alive, then it's not just the two of them who are suspects. You are also a suspect. You need to avoid arousing suspicion." His words made the golden-armored hall master's heart sink. "I'll bring him back personally. This concerns the death of the faction's 4 heroes. This is a serious matter, and I must get to the bottom of it." It was obvious that the great manager was taking this matter very seriously. He did not hesitate to bring Chongyang back personally to ensure that he came back alive. Before that, the great manager looked at Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan. "Since the two of you are the most suspicious, I will temporarily imprison you in the mine. Before the truth is revealed, you are not allowed to leave the mine. Otherwise, I will kill you immediately. Do you have any objections?" Yu Xiangwan nodded hurriedly. "When Chongyang comes back, the truth will be revealed." "What about you?" The great manager looked at Su Yu meaningfully. From the beginning, Su Yu had been too calm, as if everything was under his control. "I have no objections." Being imprisoned was within Su Yu's expectations. As for the golden armor, before the truth is ascertained, you can only move about in the faction. You are not allowed to take a step out of the faction. At the same time, he looked at Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan. You are not allowed to step into the mine, understand? He was wary of the possibility that the Golden Armored Division Master might kill Su Yu to silence him if he was really the suspect. "Yes." The head steward immediately stood up. "There's no time to lose. I'll set off immediately. All of you stay in the sect and don't cause trouble. The sect leader is about to return. If he happens to run into you causing trouble, the sect leader will be back soon?" Speaking of which, it was interesting. Su Yu had been in the faction for so long, but he had never seen the faction master. After the chief steward left, they immediately carried out his instructions. Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan were imprisoned in the mine by the disciples of the Law Enforcement Tribunal. Their entrance into the cave naturally attracted the attention of the crowd. The slaves and inspectors were extremely curious. Knowing that the two of them would be temporarily imprisoned in the mine, everyone began to discuss it. The one with the most excited expression was boorish fellow. He witnessed with his own eyes how Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan were locked up in the strongest cage in the mine. This cage was personally designed by the faction master. It was backed by the incomparably hard 9 Serenities crystal, and the pillars of the cage were forged from the indestructible 10,000-year Tao wood. The purpose was to imprison Void Nirvana and even Nirvana Void enemies. Once locked inside, no one would be able to break free without the help of the faction master. Ha ha ha, surnamed Su, even you have a day like this? The boorish man laughed towards the sky, unbridled and savage. Ever since Su Yu gained power and became an 8-star disciple, he had befriended the inner sanctum disciples. Every day, he lived in fear, afraid that Su Yu would take revenge. In the end, the heavens had eyes. Su Yu had also become a prisoner one day. Furthermore, his crime was one of betrayal of the faction. What are you being insolent about? When I get out, I'll strip you naked. Yu Xiangwan could not bear to see boorish fellow's smug look. Boorish fellow laughed heartily and ordered people to bring over good wine and food. He began to eat leisurely in front of the cage. Hee hee, you know, people, you must not be too arrogant, because who knows which day you might stumble and fall from the sky. The boorish man mocked and ridiculed. Yu Xiangwan looked at him in disdain. The attitude of a petty person will never amount to anything great. Su Yu's eyes were calm and he turned a deaf ear. His mind was still plotting the next step of his plan. As he wished, Chongyang would come back to solve the siege. But he had always liked to keep a trump card in case of trouble. After thinking about it, he released the baby. The baby immediately scampered around in the mine. But it was a pity that the baby tried to break open the cage, but with his monstrous strength, he could not do so. Since he could not do it, he could only use the female corpse at the critical moment. There. Suddenly, the baby pointed to the other side of the 9 Serenities crystal. He tried to smash it open, but the 9 Serenities crystal here was different from the ones that were mined. This place was reinforced by a formation and was shockingly hard. Otherwise, it would not have been used by the faction master to imprison strong enemies. There. But he persistently pointed to the depths of the 9 Serenities crystal wall. Su Yu pondered for a moment. If he remembered correctly, the other side of the 9 Serenities crystal wall corresponded to the abandoned mine, right? There might be some good 9 Serenities crystal left there, but it should not be enough to excite the baby. Is there anything on the other side? The baby nodded vigorously. Yes, take me there, I want to go there. Su Yu's eyes flashed. The baby's expression was particularly similar to when he dug out the female corpse. Could there really be something amazing there? When the time is right, I will definitely take you there, Su Yu comforted. Only then did the baby return to the storage space dejectedly. Time passed bit by bit. Su Yu patiently trained in the cage. Yu Xiangwan was also relaxed. With the Great Keeper personally welcoming Chongyang, it should be foolproof. When he came back, everything would be explained. The one who should be anxious was the Golden Armor Hall Master. In fact, the Golden Armor Hall Master was already anxious. He was training the new recruits in the military hall, but he was absent-minded and distracted. As the days approached, the Golden Armor Hall Master was full of unease. Was he going to sit and wait for death? He tried to leave the faction, but as soon as he left the mountain, a strong man from the law enforcement hall stopped him and warned him not to leave. In other words, he was already being monitored by the law enforcement hall. In terms of situation, he was not much better than Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan. Chen Qiankuan, come here. The Golden Armor Hall Master thought for a long time and finally made a decision. He looked for Su Yu's old friend, Chen Qianquan. Hall Master, why did you summon me? Without a word, the Golden Armor Hall Master took out an elixir and stuffed it into Chen Qianquan's mouth. Chen Qianquan dodged instinctively, but was forced to swallow it by the Golden Armor Hall Master. Hall Master, what are you doing? Chen Qianquan was shocked. He tried to force the elixir's power out of his body, but the elixir was extremely strange. Once it entered his body, it immediately melted into his limbs and bones, making it impossible for him to force it out. The Golden Armor Hall Master said coldly, "This is a deadly poison I personally developed. After swallowing it, you will definitely die in 7 days and 7 nights. If you don't believe me, check your life force." Chen Qianquan looked inside himself and found that his life force was indeed being corroded by some obscure power. Hall Master, what did I do wrong? Why did you poison me? Chen Qianquan clenched his teeth. The Golden Armor Hall Master said indifferently, "You did nothing wrong. The one at fault is your friend, Su Yu." The corners of his mouth curled into a cunning smile. "If you want to cure the poison, go find Su Yu immediately. He will know what to do. As long as he can cure you while I'm at it." How could Chen Qianquan not know that Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan were imprisoned? And the crime was betraying the faction? Was the Golden Armor Hall Master trying to threaten him and harm Su Yu? Chen Qianquan did not want to harm Su Yu from the bottom of his heart. Back then, he was indebted to Su Yu for taking care of him, which was why he had the status of a deputy hall master. How could he repay kindness with enmity now? However, seeing his life force slowly slipping away, Chen Qianquan could only bow his head to the Golden Armor Hall Master. He hurried to the mine to find the cage Su Yu was in. "Senior Brother Su, I've come to visit you." Chen Qianquan smiled as he carried some good food and wine. Su Yu revealed a faint smile. "Thank you for coming all the way here to visit me." Chen Qianquan sighed. "I owe you a debt of gratitude. If you don't even come to visit me, it would be too disappointing." Su Yu smiled without saying a word. He had only given him a small favor casually and had never taken it to heart. Yu Xiangwan chuckled and said bluntly, "You're lucky." He said he had many friends and connections, but after he was in trouble, no one came to visit him. Su Yu, on the other hand, usually did not step out of the door, but Chen Qianquan came to visit him. This made Yu Xiangwan sigh. The three of them were drinking and chatting with each other through the door of the cage. It was unusually comfortable. "When Senior Brother Su comes out, let's have a good drink again." Chen Qianquan cleared the dishes. After hesitating for a long time, he finally sighed silently and did not reveal the fact that he was poisoned. His conscience told him that the golden armor was up to no good. Moreover, with Su Yu's character, if he pretended to be ignorant and told Su Yu about the matter, Su Yu would definitely bow his head to the golden armor and get hurt. However, he still had a bit of conscience. In the Greater One faction, where the weak were prey to the strong, he had seen too much darkness. He had seen too much darkness, bullying, and harm. How could he bear to betray Su Yu's kindness when he was covered in cuts and bruises? Therefore, he would rather die silently from the poison than implicate Su Yu. "Come here for a moment." Su Yu interrupted with a smile. The latter was puzzled and came closer. Su Yu stretched out his hand from the cage and placed it on Chen Qianquan's shoulder. He patted him lightly. "Thank you." "What's there to thank?" Chen Qianquan looked puzzled. After he left, Su Yu's eyes gradually turned cold. Yu Xiangwan gnawed on the remaining chicken wing in her hand and said with a half-smile, "Your friend seems to have something to say." Su Yu did not speak. In fact, the moment Chen Qianquan arrived, he found that Chen Qianquan's vitality was being seriously corroded. That should be caused by the poison. In the faction, who would poison the low-profile Chen Qianquan for no reason? Chapter 2538. He must have threatened Chen Qianquan to come and tell Su Yu about his situation. Su Yu might have agreed to some of the golden-armored hall master's requests. For example, admitting that he was a traitor and committing suicide. In this way, even if Chong Yang came back alive, the golden-armored hall master could withdraw and accuse Chong Yang of being a traitor. However, Chen Qianquan did not say anything. From beginning to end, he had come to visit Su Yu with a grateful heart. So, Su Yu patted him on the shoulder and injected a life realm into him. Not only would his vitality not be corroded by the poison, but he would also have a strong vitality and a long lifespan. Golden armor? Su Yu's eyes turned cold. The next day, Chen Qianquan came again. It was obvious that the golden armor had forced him to come. However, Chen Qianquan had already accepted life and death, so he was happy to come and talk to Su Yu every day. 7 days passed. Chen Qianquan had a premonition that his vitality was about to be exhausted. He forced a smile at Su Yu. "Senior brother Su, I have to leave the faction tonight. I don't know when I will come back." He raised his wine cup and toasted Su Yu. "If I can't come back, please take care of yourself and get through this crisis, senior brother Su." He did not want to die in the faction. He had been trapped in the faction for tens of thousands of years. This place was like a cage that he could not escape from. So, he would rather die outside in the free world that he yearned for. Su Yu took a deep look at him, drank the wine in his cup and said, "If it's possible, don't come back in the future." Chen Qianquan smiled. "Thank you, senior brother Su." He cupped his fists and solemnly bid farewell. At night, he left the faction under the moonlight and sat on a small hill not far from the main gate. Looking at the north, Chen Qianquan felt lonely. Time passed little by little. He felt that his vitality had reached its limit. Looking at the sparse stars in the sky, he slowly closed his eyes and smiled. "Farewell, senior martial brother Su. Farewell, my old dream." Tick. He seemed to hear the sound of his vitality disappearing. Then, his vitality was completely exhausted. His head drooped, and he died. However, not long after, he suddenly opened his eyes, which were filled with shock. "What is this?" Inside his body, there was a green leaf that replaced his heart, constantly releasing life force, making his life force stronger than ever. "This is..." Chen Qianquan was shocked for a long time before he suddenly remembered someone. His eyes were instantly filled with tears. "Senior brother Su, did you know that I was poisoned?" Chen Qianquan had mixed feelings. There were capable people in the Supreme Sect. However, the only person who was willing to help him was Su Yu. Su Yu must have secretly given him that mystical leaf. Crash! Suddenly, a spatial vortex appeared beside him. A spatial storage artifact fell out of it. Chen Qianquan opened it and was deeply moved. There were 300,000 time crystals in the interspatial storage device. With this crystal, he could easily go to any place in the world and escape from the Greater One sect. He finally understood why Su Yu had said that he hoped he wouldn't come back. "Senior brother Su," Chen Qianquan cried and kowtowed in the direction of the Greater One sect. "I, Chen Qianquan, will never forget your great kindness." Then, he kowtowed again and again. With the interspatial storage device in hand, he disappeared into the night. At the same time, in the faction, Chen Qianquan's name on the register dimmed like ash the moment his life dissipated. In the cage, the space domain on Su Yu's palm slowly dissipated. "Brother Su, you are too kind to others," Yu Xiangwan sighed. Su Yu smiled without saying a word. He was only kind to his friends. Toward his enemies, he had always been ruthless. For example, the golden armor that he was about to kill with his own hands. A few days later, the golden armor was like an ant on a hot pan in a state of panic. According to his calculations, the Great Keeper should have successfully met with the golden armor. Once that happened, everything would be settled. Outside the main gate, at a place a great distance away, Chong Yang was exhausted, walking toward the faction with great difficulty. At that moment, a mighty force pierced through the heavens and descended beside Chong Yang. Chong Yang was shocked. "It's me." The Great Keeper appeared. Seeing him, Chong Yang was pleasantly surprised. "Great Keeper, why are you here?" The Great Keeper looked at the exhausted Chong Yang and injected a wave of energy into his body, allowing him to recover quickly. "Thank you, Great Keeper." Chong Yang cried tears of joy, but then he felt very sad. "Great Keeper, eldest senior brother, second senior sister, and third senior brother are all dead." The Great Keeper's expression was solemn as he said slowly, "I came to pick you up because of this. Tell me what happened." The Great Keeper held his shoulder and asked. Hearing that, Chong Yang's face was filled with murderous intent. It was the division master of the armament division. He was a traitor of the faction. Therefore, Chong Yang told him the whole truth in full detail. After hearing that, the Great Keeper's expression was surprisingly calm. "It must have been hard on you. Does anyone else know about this?" Chong Yang shook his head and laughed bitterly. "Eldest senior brother entrusted his life to me and brought me back from the dead. Apart from me, who else knows about this?" "Oh, that's good." A relieved expression appeared on the Great Manager's face. Chong Yang was stunned. Looking at the Great Keeper's untimely expression, he asked suspiciously, "Great Keeper, what do you mean by that?" "I mean exactly what I said." The Great Keeper's expression had turned cold at some point. Chong Yang suddenly had a bad feeling about this. He tried to distance himself from the Great Keeper, but the Great Keeper's hand that was holding his shoulder was like a giant that could not be moved at all. No matter how he struggled, he could not break free at all. "Great Keeper, you... Could it be that you..." Chong Yang could not believe his guess. The Great Keeper turned his head and looked at him coldly. His lips curled into a cruel smile. "I belong to the same organization as the Golden Armor. It's just that the idiot, the Golden Armor, doesn't know about it yet." "Ah, Great Keeper, no." Chong Yang's heart was filled with the desire for revenge. He only wanted to kill the Golden Armor and avenge them. He was not willing to accept that he would die in the hands of another traitor. His mood could be said to have fallen from the sky to the ground. "I came here personally to kill you. You can rest in peace." With that, Chong Yang's body suddenly burst into flames. In the blink of an eye, he was reduced to ashes. He could not be more dead. The Great Keeper clapped his hands and looked in the direction of the faction with a cold smile. "It's time to go back and deal with those two brats." More than a month later, in the mine, as usual, the boorish man humiliated Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan verbally. However, Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan were unmoved and treated him like air. At that moment, a group of black-robed law enforcers rushed over and opened the cage. "The Great Keeper is back. Come with me for the final trial." Yu Xiangwan heaved a sigh of relief. "Golden Armor, it's all over." The two of them returned to the upper floor and came to the Great Keeper's yard. The Golden Armor had already rushed over. It was obvious that he was panicking. Yu Xiangwan was relaxed and chuckled. "Great Keeper, have you received senior brother Chong Yang?" In response, the Great Keeper nodded slightly. "Haha, can you announce who the traitor is now?" Yu Xiangwan looked coldly at the Golden Armor. The Great Keeper said indifferently, "Chong Yang said that the traitors are Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan." In a split second, Yu Xiangwan's expression froze. She pointed at her own nose in disbelief. Su Yu opened his eyes slightly, his expression calm. As expected, his previous plan did not succeed. Luckily, he had a backup plan. "How is that possible? Where's senior brother Chong Yang? Ask him to come out and confront him," Yu Xiangwan said unhappily. The Great Keeper sighed. Chong Yang's injuries were too severe. He died not long after I received him. Before he died, he told me the truth. The Great Keeper's gaze became sharp. "Yu Xiangwan, you don't need to quibble anymore. The facts are clear and the evidence is conclusive. You and Su Yu are the traitors of the Greater One faction. It was because of your selfishness that 4 of the faction's outstanding talents were killed. The Great Keeper had already made his decision. Men, push him out and behead him in front of everyone. The Great Keeper waved his hand and a group of black-robed law enforcers rushed over. Bow your head and admit your guilt, the law enforcer shouted. Yu Xiangwan was furious. She laughed heartily. Faction? What fairness! We were the ones who were betrayed, but in the end we became traitors. What a joke, what a joke! Her eyes glowed with blue light. Even if she were to die, Yu Xiangwan was not willing to die unjustly. Su Yu's gaze was indifferent. Great Keeper, I would like to ask, did you not see the Golden Armored Division Master's expression? He was very afraid from the start? The Great Keeper turned a blind eye to it. I only believe in evidence. Chongyang is the best evidence. Since he said, Su Yu interrupted him and said calmly, I'm sorry, but Chongyang is already dead. You are the only one who knows what he said. So, what kind of evidence is this? Humph. The Great Keeper's gaze was cold and sharp. Are you suspecting me? Su Yu said indifferently, Why can't I suspect you? A Nirvana Void Realm strong martial artist was unable to treat a middle-stage Nirvana injured person. Isn't that strange? When he had used the resurrection technique, he had sensed that Chong Yang's life force was very strong. He was not seriously injured at all. Hence, he was almost certain that the Great Keeper was lying. I am the chief steward of the Greater One sect. I am fair and impartial. I will never practice favoritism. The chief steward waved his sleeves. Come, push him out and behead him. If he resists, kill him. Su Yu's expression was indifferent. Finally, he gave up on obtaining the Tai Haotian mirror peacefully. The Supreme Sect could no longer tolerate him. He slowly put down his hands and sighed softly. There are so many traitors in Supreme Sect. Not only was there a hall master, but even the head steward, who was second only to the sect master, had also become a traitor. Kill. The chief steward's eyes were cold as he gave the order. At this moment, he was the ruler of the Supreme Sect. Whoever he wanted to die, that person had to die. However, just as the law enforcers were about to take action and Su Yu was about to shed all pretense of cordiality and retaliate, a hoarse but unusually deep voice drifted into everyone's ears. Stop. Chapter 2539. They shouted, Welcome back, faction leader. The head steward's expression changed, and he immediately knelt down on one knee. Faction leader? Not far away, a wine gourd floated over. An old man with a rosy face and messy hair was sitting on top of it. Behind the old man was a middle-aged woman, the second steward of the Greater One faction. They had gone to the Holy City to recruit new fighters to replenish the faction. But because Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan had saved the group of captive fighters, they had changed their minds and returned empty-handed. It was just in time to witness this scene. The faction leader jumped down, the wine gourd shrinking to its normal size, hanging on his waist. What happened? The faction leader looked at Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan, then at the head steward. The head steward's gaze was evasive, but his expression was very certain. Reporting to faction leader, Jiang Xuanzhong and the other 4 heroes of the inner sanctum were all betrayed and persecuted to death. The faction leader was silent, letting out a sigh. Fate! What exactly happened? Who betrayed them? The faction leader asked. Thus, the head steward and the golden armor each revealed the truth they had fabricated. After hearing that, the faction leader did not speak for a long time. Zhenqing, what do you think? The second steward looked at the head steward, then at Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan. Of course the head steward's words are more trustworthy. The head steward had made countless contributions to the sect and was loyal and devoted. There was no reason for him to lie. The faction leader nodded. That's right. He then looked at Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan. Facing the powerful Path Master at such a close distance, Su Yu felt a terrifying pressure. It was as if he would be crushed in the next moment. The Path Master did not even need to lift a finger to kill him. Just a look was enough. Just as Su Yu reached his limit and was about to summon the female corpse, suddenly, his surroundings became empty. The faction leader turned around abruptly, slamming his palm onto the head steward's head. The head steward was caught off guard, and half of his body was crushed. At the same time, a realm pinned his body and soul to the ground in the courtyard, unable to move. The sudden change caused an uproar among the crowd. Zhen Qing was shocked. Faction leader, why did you attack the head steward? The traitors are those two outer disciples. Her mind was blank. She did not understand what had happened to the sect leader. The golden armor was also stunned. There was still a smug smile on his face. The sect leader's ruddy face was filled with killing intent. He said in a dry and hoarse voice, "It was this old man's fault. After so many years, I didn't even notice that there was a disloyal person beside me." His words caused the golden armor and Zhen Qing to be shocked. Could it be that the chief steward was a traitor? Zhen Qing said, "Sect leader, we need concrete evidence. You can't kill without thinking." She really could not accept the fact that the chief manager was a traitor. The sect leader waved his hand and sighed. "I once gave Jiang Xuanzhong 2 treasures. One is the purple jade pendant, and the other is the soul-returning insect. All of you know about the former, but only Jiang Xuanzhong and I know about the latter." "What? There's a second treasure?" No one knew about this. The soul-returning insect can revive a dead person in a short period of time and restore them to their peak state, the sect leader said slowly. Therefore, Chong Yang was able to revive because of the soul-returning insect. However, the chief manager said that when he received Chong Yang, he was seriously injured and died. The sect leader's eyes were cold. It was obvious that Chong Yang was at his peak state after being revived. How could he die from serious injuries? There was only one answer. The chief manager killed him. Therefore, he concluded that the chief manager was the real traitor. Furthermore, the golden-armored hall master was also a traitor. Hearing this, Zhen Qing immediately understood the meaning behind it. Her gaze changed several times before finally turning cold. "Chief manager, you're too disappointing." If the sect leader had not secretly given Jiang Xuanzhong a trick back then, he would not have known that there was such a dangerous traitor hidden in the Greater One sect. If he suddenly attacked one day, with his status and strength, he would definitely cause an unimaginable disaster. Fortunately, the chief manager gave himself away and was completely subdued by the sect leader. "Take him away and lock him up in the Heavenly Mine prison," the sect leader ordered. Zhen Qing nodded and immediately carried the sealed chief manager to the mine to personally lock him up. At the same time, the sect leader looked at the golden-armored hall master with an indifferent expression. Betraying the faction is a capital offense, let alone killing the 4 heroes of the inner sanctum. However, although the golden-armored hall master was in a desperate situation, he still took a great weapon from me. "Don't come over." He took out the purple jade pendant that originally belonged to Jiang Xuanzhong. The jade pendant was filled with the terrifying power of an underground master. Furthermore, the jade pendant was already in a state of activation. All the golden-armored hall master needed to do was to gently pinch it, and it would be activated. By then, more than half of the Greater One sect would be destroyed. Apart from the sect leader who would still be safe and sound, everyone else, including Su Yu, would be blasted into dust. However, the sect leader's expression was very calm. "Are you using my things to threaten me?" The sect leader laughed silently. He extended his hand and grabbed at the air. The purple jade pendant, which had clearly been activated, strangely dimmed. The golden-armored hall master's heart sank, his eyes filled with despair. Thump! He knelt on the ground and kowtowed repeatedly. "Sect leader, please have mercy, please have mercy, I was forced." The sect leader lightly shook his head. "Betrayal is betrayal, there is no such thing as forced or not forced." However, The sect leader clearly wanted to obtain more useful information from him and did not immediately kill him. Instead, he casually waved his hand and sealed all his limbs and bones. Only then did he look at Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan. "I've wronged the two of you." The sect leader lightly smiled. Su Yu and Yu Xiangwan's tokens flew out of their bodies and appeared in the sect leader's hands. The sect leader swiped his finger across the token and returned it to them. Yu Xiangwan took back her token and looked at it, surprised. 7 stars disciple? He had only been a 2-star disciple before. In the blink of an eye, he had become a 7-star disciple, skipping 5 whole levels. Su Yu looked at his own token. What made his pupils shrink was that he had jumped from an 8-star disciple to a hall master. Yes, he had skipped the ranks of a 9-star disciple and a deputy hall master to become the new hall master. Sect leader, this. Su Yu felt that the reward this time was too great. The sect leader lightly smiled. "You have made great contributions, this is what you should do. Let me see if there is a vacant position for you." Su Yu was overjoyed. He did not care about the position. As long as his level was high enough, it was enough to borrow the Tai Clear Heavenly Mirror once. "Thank you, sect leader. Bring this person to the mine and lock him up." The sect leader threw the golden-armored hall master on the ground for them to deal with. He returned to the depths of the faction. He had left the faction for too long, and the sect leader was in charge of the traitor. Who knew if there were other hidden dangers in the faction? "Brother Su, you go. I will send him to the mine's heavenly prison." Yu Xiangwan gave Su Yu a congratulatory look. Only he knew that Su Yu had taken all the risks to successfully reach the level of a hall master and use the Tai Clear Heavenly Mirror. Now, with the help of the sect leader, he had finally reached the level of a hall master. Naturally, he needed money to fulfill his wish. "Be careful," Su Yu warned. Yu Xiangwan laughed. "What's so dangerous about sending a sealed cripple?" As she spoke, she picked up the golden-armored hall master and sent him to the mine. Su Yu frowned. For some reason, he had a faint sense of uneasiness. But where did this sense of uneasiness come from? The Great Master and the golden-armored hall master had been suppressed. Could there be other unknown dangers? There shouldn't be, right? Su Yu opened his mouth but did not say anything in the end. Because he was also unsure of the source of the uneasiness. "I can't stay in the Tai sect any longer," Su Yu said to himself. After using the Tai Clear Heavenly Mirror, he would ask Yu Xiangwan if she wanted to leave with him. With that in mind, he hurried to the core area of the faction, the secret chamber. All confidential matters were completed in this chamber. The Tai Clear Heavenly Mirror was in the secret chamber, guarded by a formation personally set by the sect leader. It was impossible for ordinary people to break in. He came to the secret chamber, showed his token to the hall master, and successfully entered. He also saw the Tai Clear Heavenly Mirror that he had dreamed of. It was an existence that looked like a puppet that reflected light. The surface of its body seemed to have countless mirrors, reflecting the shadows of all things in the universe. Strangely, the surrounding scenery was not reflected in the slightest. "I want to find the specific location of the Sinful Lady Palace." Su Yu was looking forward to it. The surface of the Tai Clear Heavenly Mirror flickered with light, and the reflections flickered continuously, as if it was trying its best to search for information about the Sinful Lady Palace. 2 hours passed. 4 hours passed. The Tai Clear Heavenly Mirror was still spinning. "It seems that the information you are looking for is very limited. That's why it took you so long," the secret chamber master comforted him. As he was speaking, the Tai Clear Heavenly Mirror suddenly stopped with a ding. The same image was reflected on its whole body. It was a dark world, with lightning flashing and thunder roaring. In the world, coffins were neatly arranged, and the smell of death was everywhere. A blood-red coffin could be faintly seen lying in the center of the dark world. The coffin was faintly exuding a terrifying aura. It was as if a giant monster that could swallow the sky was lying inside, and anyone could break out of the coffin and devour the world. On the other side of the blood-red coffin, a dilapidated palace was faintly visible, hanging on the edge of the dark world, on the verge of collapse. Then, the image stopped abruptly. "What is that place?" Su Yu's breathing became slightly rapid. That dilapidated palace was the Sinful Lady Palace. But what kind of place was that dark world? What did so many coffins signify? What was the powerful creature in the blood-red coffin? Regarding this, the secret chamber master pondered and said, "Maybe the people of the demonic faction will know." The secret chamber master was in charge of the most confidential information in the faction, so he had an unimaginable understanding of all things in the universe. "Why do you say so?" Su Yu asked. The secret chamber master waved his finger, and the image rewound to the middle of the scene. "Look at those coffins, they all have the same pattern." Su Yu looked carefully, and the pattern was the same. Chapter 2540. This is the symbol of the demon faction. Maybe the answer you want is in the demon faction. Demon faction? Su Yu frowned deeply. Although the location was not specific, there was at least some clue. But who should he ask about the people of the demon faction? Suddenly, Su Yu's eyes lit up. "Many thanks." He bid farewell to the hall master of the secret division. Before he left, he copied the image and quickly left the sect. One day later, at the foot of a mountain, "Jin Yu," Su Yu called out. A beautiful figure arrived as scheduled. It was Jin Yu, who had been waiting for Su Yu for several years. "I thought Mr. Su had forgotten me," Jin Yu said bitterly. Su Yu smiled apologetically. "I have been carrying out missions outside in recent years, so I have no time to come." He took out a piece of 6th grade 9 Serenities crystal that weighed 100 pounds. 6th grade? So big? Jin Yu was shocked, her face overflowing with joy. The minds of the Greater One faction are getting richer and richer. Even such a large 6th grade 9 Serenities crystal has appeared. However, the time crystals I carry with me may not be enough for such a large piece. She was just a small merchant, and the time crystals she had were very limited. Su Yu said calmly, "I'll give it to you for free." "For me?" Jin Yu was stunned, unable to believe her ears. If converted into time crystals, this piece of 9 Serenities crystal would cost at least 160,000 time crystals. That was an astronomical figure. "The condition is that you answer one of my questions." In fact, even if she did not answer, Su Yu could give her the 9 Serenities crystal. Not to mention anything else, just the self-evolving devil-ape puppet alone was worth far more than 160,000 time crystals. Really? Jin Yu was extremely excited. 160,000 time crystals. She had never earned so many time crystals since she started her business. "Of course it's true." Su Yu took out the copied picture and showed the gloomy world to Jin Yu. "Do you know what kind of place is in this picture?" Unexpectedly, Jin Yu recognized it at a glance, and a trace of fear appeared on her face. "Have you also been to the ancient tomb of the demon faction?" "Ancient tomb?" It was somewhat similar to the description in the picture. "Where is this place?" Su Yu was delighted. However, Jin Yu shook her head and said regretfully, "The ancient tomb of the Demon Gate is the burial place of every demon lord. Only the 10 elders of the Demon Gate and the Demon Lord know about it. Moreover, it will only open once the Demon Lord dies. Ordinary people don't know about it at all." Back then, Jin Yu's ancestor was an elder of the demon sect, so Jin Yu knew a little about the demon sect's ancient tomb. If it had been someone else, Su Yu might not have been able to get the information about the ancient tomb of the demon faction. A world that would only open after the death of the demon lord? Su Yu muttered. It seemed like he needed to capture a demon faction elder and interrogate him. The best candidate in his mind was the Nirvana Void elder Xiao Mo. Firstly, his cultivation was the lowest among the 10 elders of the demon sect. Secondly, he had a grudge against Su Yu. "Thank you for telling me." Su Yu paused for a moment, then said, I might leave the Supreme One faction forever, and I won't be able to carry out any transactions in the future. So, don't wait for me. Jin Yu sighed with some regret. It's rare to meet someone like you who is worth making friends with. However, I've also decided not to be a merchant anymore. With your 100 pounds of 6th grade 9 Serenity's crystal, I have the opportunity to enter the Demon Gate and become a small management leader. Maybe I won't have to work so hard in the future. Su Yu smiled. Congratulations. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. Since they first came to the 8-star civilization, they had been trading peacefully until now, so they more or less had some friendship. After this farewell, they might not see each other again. Then, we'll meet again someday. The two of them cupped their fists and left. Su Yu rushed to the faction in a flash. Little did he know, in the faction's mind, there had been a drastic change as soon as he left. At that time, Yu Xiangwan came to the mine's heavenly prison with Jin Yu. At this time, the slaves were working, but not a single slave could be seen. Yu Xiangwan's eyes narrowed slightly, and traces of blue light flickered in and out of her eyes. Suddenly, her eyes swept over a 9 Serenity's crystal that was scattered on the ground. She picked it up and turned it over to have a look. A drop of bright red Taoist blood bloomed like a flower. Supervising blood? Yu Xiangwan squatted down, her whole body on guard. It was already very strange that the slaves were nowhere to be found. In the end, even the supervising blood existed. Moreover, it was very strange that the second in charge had personally brought the sealed head in charge down, so why were they nowhere to be seen? Suppressing the uneasiness in her heart, Yu Xiangwan carried the golden-armored hall master to the heavenly prison. In the end, the heavenly prison was empty. What's going on? Yu Xiangwan was surprised. The second in charge had come to the mine about 10 minutes before him, so why was there no sign of them? The feeling of uneasiness in her heart grew stronger. After a moment of contemplation, she decisively carried the golden-armored hall master and retreated frantically, trying to leave the mine and report to the faction leader. The disappearance of the second in charge and the head in charge was no small matter. However, at this moment, a faint evil laugh appeared behind her. You're smart, but it's too late. Following that, an extremely fierce attack was aimed at Yu Xiangwan's back. Yu Xiangwan's heart was beating wildly, and she had a strong premonition of danger. Without a second thought, she let go of the golden-armored hall master, and a large patch of blue flames gushed out from her back to block the incoming attack. It was a pity that the attack was too strong, and Yu Xiangwan could only block half of it. The other half hid her body. Yu Xiangwan let out a miserable groan. Her back was pierced from her chest. An ordinary creature would have died because of that. However, Yu Xiangwan was not affected at all. She ran forward frantically. At the same time, she looked back. When she saw the attacker clearly, her expression changed drastically. Head in charge, you. At this moment, not only had the head in charge recovered from his injuries, even the seal that the faction leader had placed in his body had been forced out. Based on the head in charge's condition, it was impossible for him to be forced out. Only a powerhouse whose strength was not much inferior to the chief steward could successfully force him out. And the person who could do that, Yu Xiangwan's heart skipped a beat. Could it be? I was wondering what kind of powerful character it was. Turns out it's a member of the Corpse clan who disguised himself as a human, her. The second elder's voice sounded like a nightmare in Xiangwan's ears. Following that, there was a gust of wind in front of him, and another fierce attack hit his body. This time, he did not manage to block it in time, and his body was smashed into 4 parts on the spot. The second in charge's figure slowly walked out from the dark. There was a hint of sarcasm on her face. The head in charge is really too much. He finally found out that the head in charge has betrayed him, but he still wants me, a traitor, to send him to prison. This is really putting me in a difficult position. Should I continue to be loyal to him, or should I shed all pretense of cordiality and expose myself?